minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Live from the place not overly ostentatious studios of the Infinity Sports Network here in beautiful New York City, sitting on top of the 10th floor of 345 Hudson Street. Welcome on in to what is a Tuesday edition of the Zach Gelb Show across all the great local Infinity Sports Network affiliates, Sirius XM, Channel 158, the free Odyssey app, and of course streaming live on YouTube. 855-212-4227 is the number to jump on in. That's 855-212-4227. You could always get at me on Instagram, where I'm straight flexing, or via the good old cesspool of Twitter, X, at Zach Gelb. That's ZachGelb. We got a loaded show for you today. Coming up at the top of the hour from Pro Football Talk, Mike Florio will stop by. And then in the final segment of the show today, right at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time, we will be joined by Indianapolis Colts running back Jonathan Taylor. So a whole lot to do today. And I was at the game last night, which was a penalty, flag, just sloppy game, a ref show where the Bills were strong to start. Then Aaron Rodgers had that ridiculous Hail Mary at the end of the first half to Allen Lazard, as there was like a magnetic force last night between ayahuasca Aaron and Allen Lazard. And then the second half, it was like, who wants to win this game? You would drive the ball, miss a field goal. Drive the ball, miss a field goal. The wind played a factor in it. And then late in the game, not only did the Buffalo Bills take the lead, but then the Buffalo Bills on third down spread everybody out. Josh Allen took the ball himself, and he ran right past Michael Clemens, so he put on skates for a first down, move those chains, move those chains, move those chains, and the ball game is over. So you would usually anticipate off a game like that, we're sitting here saying, oh, the Jets are dead at 2-4. This is the Bills division, and just talk about the game. But the game is on the back burner from what did transpire since last night. Because in the middle of the night, or maybe even before that game was over, Davante Adams was making his way to New York to now become a member of the Jets. So Davante Adams, in a move that felt like it was inevitably always going to happen, Davante Adams goes to the Jets on a conditional third-round pick that could turn into a second-round pick. And these are like the fakest conditions ever. Because even Stu said to me, with his Raiders now losing Davante Adams, yeah, the Raiders basically got a third-round pick for him. Because the only way it gets to it, too, is that Davante Adams, who hasn't been playing for a bunch of this season because of the hammy injury already, a.k.a. his feelings were hurt and he wanted to get traded, he would have to be a first-team All-Pro or a second-team All-Pro for the Raiders to get a second-round pick. Or, you want me to be a comedian, the Jets would have to make the AFC Championship game. Those are the way that third-round pick would go to a second-round pick. But the news didn't stop there, because the Jets and the Bills are battling on the field. The Jets and the Bills are also battling off the field, as we did get to see a few moments ago, Amari Cooper from the Cleveland Browns now become a Buffalo Bill, and it was basically a bunch of late-round picks involved in that dealio. But let's start with the Jets. Let's start with Davante Adams. Let's start with Aaron Rodgers. What the Jets did today, let me be abundantly clear when I say this. The Jets just put lipstick on a pig. That's what they did. Does getting Davante Adams make them a better team? Yes. Are they going to meet their goals where their goals were before the start of the season now getting Davante Adams? Absolutely not. This Jets offensive line, even with all the improvements that they've made, is no bueno. Aaron Rodgers, with the game on the line the last 2 weeks, up against the Vikings, up against the Buffalo Bills. I know you could blame Mike Williams for running the wrong route like Aaron Rodgers did after the game, blah, 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 blah. The fact is, he had opportunities to go win the game. And he threw a pick to Stephon Gilmore, and he threw a pick last night as well to Taron Johnson, with the game on the line, with the chance to go win the game. The Jets have issues, and the Jets just like to scapegoat their issues. Oh, we'll blame Robert Saleh, and I'm not making a defense for Robert Saleh, but can we finally put to bed this jackassery that Woody Johnson tried to sell us last week or earlier in the week when he was saying, hey, it wasn't Aaron who fired Robert Saleh. This was me. We didn't even tell Aaron. Baloney. Aaron Rodgers' feelings were hurt because Robert Saleh said he needed to change the cadence. Robert Saleh and him were clearly having some incidents and some moments that were contentious, and they tried to poo-poo all of that. Aaron Rodgers gave his blessing. Aaron Rodgers led the charge to get Robert Saleh fired. And then a week later, no coincidence that Aaron Rodgers, the GM, found a way to execute the deal to get Davante Adams to New York. But the Jets still have an enormous amount of flaws. And quite frankly, if you were a Jet fan last night, who when you were watching that before you got the Adams news, that saw that and saw that performance where you guys lost another game after you blew your load celebrating after beating the Patriots, you let Bo Nix beat you with the Broncos when he had like 60 yards passing. You couldn't find a way to win a game. I know the Vikings are undefeated, but Aaron Rodgers had 3 interceptions in that game and cost you the game with the game on the line. And then you're going up against the Bills where you're supposed to get an emotional boost after firing your coach with the interim coach, Jeff Ulbrich, coming on in and all that stuff, and you lost that game. So after where the Jet fan over-celebrated after beating the snot out of the Patriots, to what they've seen the last 3 games, to when they went to bed last night, every Jet fan, or a lot of Jet fans, had the feeling and the sentiment that, man, this team got us again. This team was overrated. This team is not going to meet their goals, and you could just end the season. If this move of Davante Adams makes you think that the Jets can be a serious threat this year, you are a sucker and you are delusional. I don't care if you have all this talent out the wazoo with Aaron Rodgers, with Breece Hall, with Garrett Wilson, with Davante Adams, with the names that you got on your defense. This football team, I get it. They're still alive mathematically. The AFC has been sloppy. The AFC East has been sloppy. Even though the Bills won last night, they're not world beaters. But why are you taking the bait again? You got to be such a damn fool if you are a Jet fan today to actually think you're going to accomplish something of significance this year. Like, I'm not saying the Jets are going to be trash. I'm not saying the Jets are going to be ass. I'm not saying the Jets are going to be brutal. But if you think your team can find a way to magically turn this around and become a great team or become a very good team, you're a dummy. You're an idiot. You're a moron. You're a dope. And you're a sucker. That's what you are if you think the Jets are going to go on to be some great team. The Jets at best, if everything goes right the rest of the way, are a wild card team. That's what they are. And you may have to squint very, 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 very tough and a very hard spot. And you got to be like, oh, I can barely see it, and really squint if you actually think this team's going to go on a run and envision them getting into the playoffs. But just getting into the playoffs is an epic failure of a season. This was a team that Jet fans were telling me, oh, they got such a good roster, they just need an average quarterback, and they're going to be a Super Bowl contender. Baloney. Nonsense. Stop. What the Jets did today is why Woody Johnson is a horrible owner. And I'm not slamming trading for Davante Adams. I'm not. I slammed Davante Adams more for allowing this than the Jets for trading for Davante Adams. We'll get to that in just a second. But Woody Johnson as an owner, he is a fundamentally flawed owner. And here's why. Because Woody Johnson, in his tenure, and his disastrous tenure as the owner of the Jets, when a newspaper is really outdated, he only cares about what steals the back page headlines. That's what he cares about. That is how he's always run his organization, not by how many wins you have, but how many times you're on the back page of the sports section. How many times are you generating buzz and people are paying attention to the Jets, even if they're the same old Jets? Because they could have got this deal done last week, but it took losing to the Bills when the deal was like 99% done to say, okay, let's fax it in, let's cross the T's, let's dot the I's, and let's get Davante Adams on a plane at midnight to fly over to New York. That's what it took. Because today, look what the Jets did. The Jets had 2 news items after their loss. So instead of everyone getting on these shows and blabbing about the Jets' crappy performance at home in front of their home fans, what are people blabbing about? Oh, the Jets finally gave Hassan Reddick permission to seek a trade. And oh yeah, the Jets are giving their fans false hope by acquiring Davante Adams. Folks, let's just be transparent. Let's just be honest. And one of my best friends in the entire world is a Jet fan. And he said to me, my best friend Alex, before the start of the season, when I asked him, what do you expect from this team? He goes, 12 wins and a Super Bowl. That's what he expected, 12 wins and a Super Bowl. Well, the Jets run their organization to get people like my best friend to speak for them. And they cater to people like him who are a sucker. Because people like Alex today, who's my best friend in the world, wakes up after that crappy performance at 2-4. Oh, the Jets got Davante Adams. Oh, gee golly. Oh, they're still alive when the team still can't block. Like the Jets had 2 100-yard wide receivers last night. I don't think they need another wide receiver. but you have a quarterback who is washed, a quarterback that could still have some moments, but doesn't play a great game, and you have an offensive line that looks like a turnstile in Penn Station pre-COVID. All right? That's what the Jets are right now. So to think that they're even in an AFC that's open, an AFC that's a mess, to think that the Jets are going to go on to be this great team, you're just a sucker. You are. And please, I'm trying to give the Jets fans a little lesson here. Stop taking the bait. It would be like if Stu got jacked up each and every season about the Raiders, knowing that the Raiders make big moves, make some splashes, but they never end up putting it together. When the Jets are expected to be good, they stink. When there's no expectations, they over-deliver. Look at the years that they went to the 2 AFC championship games with Rex Ryan. They weren't expected to be anything. They weren't great regular season teams. Heck, in Super Bowl III, outside of Joe Willie Namath, no one thought they were winning that Super Bowl up against the Colts. That's what the Jets have always been. Regardless to who the owner is, who the quarterback is, who the coach is, who the players are. When there are expectations, the Jets just don't only meet them, they fail miserably. And when there's no expectation, that's when they overachieve, and that's when they soar, and that's when they fly high. But let me get to Davante Adams. Davante Adams, let me just say this. He is a fraud when it comes to Davante Adams saying, the only thing missing from my resume is a Lombardi trophy, and I want to win a Lombardi trophy. You can't make that as a serious statement and have that pass as a serious statement when the last 2 times you've been traded, you leave Green Bay, which is a great organization, and you go to the decrepit Raiders. And then you go from the decrepit Raiders to the lousy, stinking Jets. Davante Adams wanting to win a Super Bowl is like when somebody wants to lose weight and they make that declaration that I'm going to start putting in the work. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to start eating healthier. And then the moment after they say that, they go on their phone, they go to McDonald's, and they order a Big Mac, a large fry, and a large soda. That's what Davante Adams is doing. Davante Adams right now is the fat guy that says he wants to lose weight and then is eating at McDonald's within 5 seconds after saying that statement. So Davante Adams, save me the you want to win and you want to go get a championship. Because if you want to win a Lombardi trophy, you ain't playing for the Raiders and you definitely aren't playing for the Jets, Jets, who haven't won a Super Bowl or have even been to a Super Bowl since Super Bowl III. So stop, Davante Adams. I can't take you seriously when you say you want to win, when you go from the Packers to the Raiders and then from the Raiders to the GD Jets. Come on. Baloney. Bullcrap. Hogwash. You want to play with your friends. You want to play with Derek Carr. You want to play with Aaron Rodgers. You don't want to be a winner. So stop selling me that nonsense, Davante Adams, that you want to go be a world champion. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. That really annoys me. Because Davante Adams is a great player. And he should have a Lombardi trophy. But you're not getting a Lombardi trophy going from Green Bay to the Raiders and now the Jets. Your best chance was in Green Bay. You should have made a trade back to Green Bay. Or you should have gone to Baltimore. Anywhere but the Jets. The Raiders to the Jets. Ooh, what are you doing, Davante Adams? All righty, we got a whole lot to do. We'll take a timeout. When we come on back, it looks like the Steelers, who play the Jets on Sunday, which I have no clue Sunday night how that game is going to end. But it's going to be just comedy to watch the pregame, then during the game, and then the postgame. Because the Jets now made a quote-unquote big move getting Davante Adams. And now the Steelers, when they actually have a good record, may be sitting Justin Fields down and going back to Mr. Unlimited, Russell Wilson? We'll discuss that decision, or that potential decision, that it looks like Mike Tomlin is going to make, and he's going to make that QB change when we come on back. It is the Zach Gelb Show. Sports fans, listen up. 1 in 8 men will be diagnosed with prostate cancer, and bladder leaks can be a side effect. That's why Depend is teaming up with the Prostate Cancer Foundation to encourage screening, because health is a long game and it's yours to win. Now, here's the cool part. Through November, Depend is contributing up to $300,000 to prostate cancer research by donating 40 cents for every purchase of shields, guards, and Real Fit products. Void in Mississippi. Learn more at Depend.com.
You're in a 4.5-minute break. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
You're listening to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
All right, it is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We will do superstar shout-outs coming up in about 20 minutes from now. Mike Florio will join us at the top of the hour, and then in the final segment of the show today at 5:35 p.m. Eastern Time, we have a treat for you. Indianapolis Colts running back Jonathan Taylor will join us. A lot going on in the sports world today. We opened up the show talking about the Jets after their disaster last night, then trading for Davante Adams, trying to put lipstick on a pig, which this Jets team I still think is going to be a bad football team this season. And then also I got into my disgust with Davante Adams saying he wants to win a championship, and then playing recently for the Raiders and the Jets and forcing his way to both the Raiders and the Jets. Stu, before I get to this Russell Wilson stuff, let me get your take on it, because I know from most people today it's going to be viewed through the lens of the Jets. But you are a Raiders fan. You had Davante Adams. Davante Adams gave your organization, right, the benefit of the doubt for a while, and then said to himself, okay, even though I was saying I'm not going to find a way to force a trade, something happened the last few weeks, and now he's going to be playing and suiting up as soon as Sunday for the New York Jets. So at this point, are you just so beaten down that, like, you don't have any emotion to get angry at Davante Adams, or do you kind of just get it, hey, you know, he came here to go play with Derek Carr, then they got rid of Derek Carr, and they never found a replacement, so he wanted to go somewhere else?
Yeah, I'm not mad at Davante. I'm kind of just glad it's all over. I don't blame him. I don't blame him for wanting to leave the Raiders. I just think it was a situation that, what's he going to get out of it?
Yeah.
Now, to your point, is he going to get much more going to the Jets? I don't know.
Like maybe at best you get a playoff berth.
Yeah.
If everything goes right.
Yeah. I mean, and in terms of what they got back, I would have liked a second-round pick. I think
outright, yeah.
But the market clearly wasn't there, so it is kind of what it is. They got what they got, and it's over now, so here we go.
Isn't it surprising, though? Like, we got the sentiment, and we understood, obviously, that the Raiders weren't getting what they wanted, which was a second-round pick, and that's why Antonio Pierce tried to put on this front, which was just such a joke, and everyone saw right through it because you already played your hand and showed us your hand when you were liking an Instagram criticizing Davante Adams and whatever it was, him going somewhere else, and played his last game for the Raiders. So you already showed us what your cards were that you had when you were trying to keep them close to the vest. So then to walk it back and say, oh, because of like Aiden O'Connell, and have Schefter say that he's the starting quarterback, there's still a road for Davante Adams to return to the Jets and to the Raiders, and it's just because of the injury right now. We all rolled our eyes at that. But with that being said, I know Davante Adams may not be as great as he once was, but he's still a very, 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 very good wide receiver. I would still call him a great wide receiver. Teams overvalue draft picks, and they're so attached and they covet these draft picks. You know, I'm not saying that you were going to get a 1, but how a team like the Ravens, that's the one that's mind-boggling to me. A team like the Ravens that has a Super Bowl window, why they wouldn't just give a 2 and say, bleep that. And maybe it was to a point where Davante just said, I only really want to go to the Jets. And if that's the case, you can't control that. But with how much he's been on social media and the way that he's been pushing this, I think if you told him you get to go play with King Henry and Lamar Jackson in Baltimore, that Davante Adams would have been fine by that. So that's why it's mystifying to me that the Raiders couldn't get a little bit more than a conditional 3, because if you get a conditional 3 from the Jets, where it's a foregone conclusion he was going there, not one other team was willing to top that or do a little bit better than that. And I would have to think the Ravens had those conversations with the Raiders, and for whatever the reason is, Stu, it's mind-boggling to me that the Ravens didn't just swoop in and say, hey, here's a second-round pick, because if you're at a parade and you win a championship, is anyone going to be saying when you're picking in the draft in April, oh man, I really missed that second round pick at the end of the second round. So that to me is the surprise, the mildly surprising part. It's not that you guys didn't get a second, but that one of these actual championship, bona fide championship contenders wouldn't just say, okay, when push comes to shove in the 11th hour, we'll give you the second round pick.
I agree, and we're on like week 3 of this almost, and yeah. I thought the fact that it was taking this long was that they were going to get that from somebody. They were going to get one of these contenders to budge, and like I said, give them a second or maybe, a 3 and a 5 or something, just something more than what they got, and it just never happened, which is a little surprising to me, I will say.
All righty, let's get to the Steelers. So this is from Tom Pelissero this morning. The Steelers plan to give Russell Wilson first-team reps in practice this week, putting him in line to make his season debut and start Sunday night against the Jets. Pittsburgh is 4-2 with Fields, but Wilson's calf is fully healed, and now he gets his shot. So that's from Tom Pelissero. So that makes it seem that Russell Wilson is starting on Sunday night as long as he continues to stay healthy. Let's go to the man that makes that decision, Mike Tomlin. This is Mike Tomlin on Russell Wilson taking first-team reps.
Last week we were scheduled for Russ to work in totality. He did that. Over the course of the week, I got comfortable with his ability to display his health. Now it's about, knocking the rust off. He did some of that last week. He is in consideration this week. We'll see where that leads us, man. Both guys at the quarterback position are scheduled to work tomorrow, and we'll just walk it day by day, all geared toward putting ourselves in best position to win the football game.
So that's fine to say, and he's clearly not playing and showing you what his hand is, even though Tom Pelissero basically had enough information to say Russ is in line to start this week. So the follow-up question is, hey, Coach, why not just keep Justin Fields in? I know you don't want to have someone lose their job because of injury, and Russ won the competition, but you are 4-2 right now. So what say you, Mike Tomlin?
Justin has been really good, and we've been really good at times, but not to be confused with great. Man, this is a competitive league, man. We're trying to position ourselves to be that team, and we got a player with talent who hadn't had an opportunity to play, so we're going to potentially explore those things. Sometimes it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with what Justin has done or has not done. Justin has been an asset to us, man. So we're appreciative of that. We're appreciative of how he's taking care of the ball. But we're just looking at all the people at our disposal the same way that we do at any position. That's what you do in this thing. You better have your foot on the gas at all times. You better look to divide the labor up in the most appropriate way based on who's available to you and healthy. And that's just simply what we're going to do.
I give Mike Tomlin credit for one thing. He is historically known for doing an incredible job at eliminating distractions. Like, look at Antonio Clown Brown when he was there. Antonio Clown Brown, when he was with the Steelers, we didn't know how bad he was and the problems, for the most part, that he was causing until he left the organization. Like, when the Raiders pulled off that trade for Antonio Clown Brown, we were all like, hey, what a phenomenal deal by the Raiders. That's all Mike Tomlin can get. And then you see what happened and what happened when you get Antonio Clown Brown out of the Steelers organization and how disastrous that was ever since. So Tomlin does a good job at getting the locker room all together. And even when he has to fight through some crap, it never gets as bad as what it appears when the player goes somewhere else. But with that being said, I think this one is fascinating if he does start Russell Wilson, and I fully expect Russell Wilson to start on Sunday night up against the Jets. It's because your team's 4-2. And I understand that the Steelers aren't necessarily winning because of Justin Fields, but they are 4-2 with Justin Fields as the starting quarterback. And there's a saying, if it's not broken, don't try to fix it. And Mike Tomlin is going against that right now because the Steelers, even though they're not a Super Bowl championship team right now, there's also a team that has won a playoff game since 2016 anyway. And you're 4-2, things are looking good for you. And it's not like you got blown out in any of your losses. It's like the 2 losses that you have, you lost by 3 to Indianapolis and you lost by 3 to Dallas. So to make this move now, I object to it. And the part where I criticize Tomlin is it's almost like Tomlin has approached this from the jump that he owes something to Russell Wilson. You don't owe jack to Russell Wilson. You're paying him $1.5 million. I know Russell Wilson is a 9-time Pro Bowler. He used to be a great quarterback. If it wasn't for Deshaun Watson, Russell Wilson would be viewed as one of the worst trades ever, or the worst trade ever. Because you go to Denver, you don't even let your new contract kick in, and they already got rid of you. And you were bad your first year in Denver. You played better in your second year, but they still moved on from you. And now you're in Pittsburgh on the minimum. So really, the Steelers don't owe you anything. But I know that situation a little bit. And I had someone close to that situation the moment, and that's why I looked pretty smart when I did this, folks. I'll peel back the curtain a little bit. Like the moment when it was announced that Russ was getting benched in Denver, I said, Steelers. It's like I talked to some people that told me, watch out for the Steelers. And then when Russ signed with the Steelers, I got on the air and I said, hey, with Kenny Pickett there, it is not a quarterback competition. However, they do spin it. And then Kenny gets traded to the Eagles, and then they bring in Justin Fields. And you knew all along that Russ was going to win that job, but then Russ was pushing a sled for reasons I still don't know why. And he got that calf injury, and it opened the door for Justin Fields. And it's not like Russ ran away with the job, and it's not like Justin Fields ran away with the job. But because Russ is the veteran, they went with Russ. But then Russ wasn't ready to go for week 1. But you're 4-2 right now. I don't mess with that record when you have a quarterback in Russell Wilson who's a great unknown of what he is. Like, it's different if you had a stud quarterback and if this was your franchise quarterback. But Russell Wilson isn't a franchise quarterback anymore. So up against the Jets, you're going to bench probably Justin Fields and go to Russ? It could work. But I don't think it's necessarily the right move. And here's the biggest reason why. The Steelers' offensive line has a lot of problems. So Russell Wilson coming off a calf injury, Russell Wilson who isn't more mobile than Justin Fields, and Russell Wilson who's been in decline the last few years, gives you a better chance to do more with less behind an offensive line that has a lot of problems than Justin Fields. I just don't see it that way. I don't. And I'm not sitting here and telling you that Justin Fields is your next franchise quarterback because he hasn't been spectacular. But he does have a 4-2 record right now. And I'm not benching Justin Fields to go to what could be a rusty Russell Wilson. But I'm not the coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers, so I guess my opinion doesn't really matter. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We will get to superstar shout-outs when we come on back. We'll shout out an NFL player, an NFL coach, a college football player, and a college football coach as well when we return in 5 minutes. But first up with the latest Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash, here he is, El Capitan, Marco Belletti.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
Zach, we're sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Protect your family, your phone, and your furry friends with Life electronic device and pet health insurance. Rough start for the Jets. Not looking to fold the tent, though. Instead, they send a conditional third-round pick to the Raiders to land Davante Adams to reunite him with Aaron Rodgers as the Jets are trying to jumpstart their season. There is some thought, though. Sitting at 2-4, spending another draft pick on a 31-year-old wideout is not exactly smart business. Owner Woody Johnson feels, though,
thinking is overrated. You have to look forward. You have to look forward to the games we're going to play each and every week and try to win all of them. And that's basic stuff, right?
Bills also get a weapon for Josh Allen, reportedly land Amari Cooper from the Browns, that for a third-rounder. Cowboys owner Jerry Jones, very combative during an interview with Sean and RJ on 105.3 The Fan in Dallas.
You're not going to figure out what the team is doing right or wrong. If you are, or any 5 or 10 like you, you need to come to this meeting I'm going to today. There are 32 teams here. You're geniuses.
Jerry,
okay? Y'all really think you're going to sit here with a microphone and tell me all of the things that I've done wrong?
I'm Marco Belletti.
The Infinity Sports Network is on your smart speaker. All you have to say is, play Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. 30 seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
The Defensive Player of the Week is sponsored by the Navy Federal Credit Union, who proudly serves the Armed Forces, DoD veterans, and their families. The members are the mission. Learn more at NavyFederal.org. This week's player is Lions safety Brian Branch. In Sunday's blowout win over the Cowboys, Branch had 5 tackles, 1 forced fumble, and 2 interceptions. Detroit, as a team, held Dallas to just 251 total yards and forced 5 turnovers. I just got a tweet, by the way, from Steve-O, but not that Steve-O. So Steve-O in Wisconsin. Zach Gelb, so you're telling me we're not even halfway through this season and you've already pronounced the Jets as dead with that kind of star power, and yet we're the dumb ones? Packers snuck into the playoffs as a wild card and won the Super Bowl. Just get in and anything is possible. Okay, Kevin Garnett. Anything is possible. So I said the Jets could still make the playoffs. But just making the playoffs isn't the goal for the Jets. That's not what I was told from their fan base. So if you think the Jets just getting into the playoffs, if everything goes right for this 2-4 team, which you could turn around from 2-4 and make the playoffs, but if you think this Jets team with Aaron Rodgers, who couldn't get the job done a second time in Green Bay with all those chances, is in an easier conference, if you think that he's going to get it done now on one leg at the age of 40 behind a garbage offensive line, you know what? I want whatever you're smoking. All right? Roll up whatever you're smoking and send it to me. That's what I want. All righty. Let's get to a little superstar shout-out, Stu. Why don't we?
Another week in the books. Who stood out on the gridiron? We give you our superstar shout-outs right here on the Zach Gelb Show.
All righty, let's start in the NFL. We go with our players first. Will Anderson Jr., the 3rd overall pick of the 2023 NFL Draft. He was the NFL Defensive Rookie of the Year a season ago. And you look at that Texans team now with C.J. Stroud, DeMeco Ryans, Will Anderson Jr., Nick Caserio making all those good moves, wheeling and dealing. Will Anderson Jr. deserves some praise. And what he did up against the Patriots was phenomenal. 8 tackles, 3 sacks, and he also had a pass deflection and 1.5 stuffs, which is a stat that I like. Will Anderson Jr., Stu, is my NFL player that I'm going to give a superstar shout-out to this week for his 3-sack performance up against the Patriots. And if he wanted to, probably could have got 6 sacks in the game behind that garbage offensive line that my Patriots have.
All right, I'm going to go with Bears rookie quarterback Caleb Williams. Now, I know they only played the Jaguars, but I was just impressed with him. 23 of 29, 226 yards, 4 touchdowns. And in the last 3 weeks, he has 7 touchdowns to just 1 interception. So you clearly see Caleb Williams growing.
And that throw to Keenan Allen was
great.
Just sick. Absolutely sick. And you know what I love the most about Caleb Williams? You see how he ends his post-game press conferences? So you know how Russell Wilson would do that insufferable Broncos country. Let's ride.
Yeah.
Caleb Williams, I saw this on the good old TikTok yesterday. He goes, the Bears, the Bears, the Bears, the Bears. After like every interview. That's awesome. I love that. You know, maybe you go a little Saturday Night Live next time and you go, the Bears. Just don't have the heart attack, Caleb Williams, because then Bears fans will have heart attacks with how great you've been the last few weeks for the Bears. So, Caleb Williams in the good graces. Remember when he was a bust after the first 2 weeks of the season? Yeah, good times. All righty, let's go to our NFL coach that we're going to give a superstar shout-out to this week. I actually thought this was very, 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 very difficult to pick a coach this week. And it's probably chalk. It's probably the obvious one. And we're going to find out how great of a coach this guy is now navigating some serious adversity. But what Dan Campbell has done with the Detroit Lions is just bleeping awesome. And what they did to the Cowboys, the way that they just emasculated the drama Dallas choking Cowboys was awesome. And not only did they win, but they wanted to rub your face in the dirt and drag you up and down the field after that game was over after the first 15 minutes for like the next 45 minutes of the football game. That was tricky. Look at that. I was doing a little mental math there.
Yes.
Yeah, I was like, oh, said 15 minutes. How many more minutes in a football game? Oh, you had 45 plus 15. That's 60. There we go. So probably should have just said the game was over after the first 30 minutes and they dragged you up and down the field for the next 30 minutes. But you get the point. All righty. Lions 47, Cowboys 9. And I just love the way that the Lions look under Detroit's head coach, Dan Campbell. Detroit's Dan Campbell now is how we refer to him. All right, Stu, who's your coach?
I like that one. I went with an NFC North counterpart, Packers head coach Matt LaFleur. Now, of course, they beat the Cardinals, not the biggest win in the world, but they did win by a lot, 34-13. But it's more of a body of work. Obviously, you had Jordan Love go down in that Week 1 game. They weathered the storm, 4-2, right in the mix of the NFC North with all those teams. I just think he's done a really good job with them.
And you know what? Romeo Doubs did something they didn't like. He was suspended. So you send a message. You don't let your players walk all over. You have control of that locker room. Then you give him an opportunity to returns this past weekend, and he rewards you with 2 touchdowns. That's good coaching as well for Matt LaFleur. All righty, before I get to my college football player of the week, I got to say thank you to my buddy Jake in Boise who listens to the show. So I said a few weeks ago after we had Ashton Genty on, someone's got to send me some Boise State swag. Well, not only did Jake send me some swag, he got me something that's pretty damn cool. And my headphones, I just jacked them up to like 1,000 here for a second when I went to get this sweatshirt out. But look at what Jake from Boise sent me. An Ashton Genty Heisman Trophy sweatshirt. This is awesome. And I can't wait to wear this. Thanks so much, Jake. And we'll give the weekly shout out for Ashton Genty, who...
He could win this every week, I feel like.
Yeah, he's not my player this week. But Ashton Genty now is 1,248 yards on the season and 18 total touchdowns. And up against Hawaii in their 28-7 drubbing of Hawaii, which they were nice to Hawaii. 217 rushing yards, a touchdown, and then also had a receiving touchdown as well. So 2 total touchdowns and 217 rushing yards. But to my player, we are better than Lincoln Riley and better than USC. How about the Penn State Nittany Lions, led by their just beast of a tight end, Tyler Warren? He had 17 receptions for 224 yards and a touchdown. He also completed a 9-yard pass in this game. But he snapped the ball to a backup quarterback who threw it over to the starting quarterback in Drew Aller. And then Tyler Warren, who snapped the ball, was in the end zone and made a sick, and I mean a sick, touchdown catch. Tyler Warren will be the first tight end taken in this draft, and the Penn State Nittany Lions are somehow, some way, right now ranked number 3 in the country. And I already hear the newsroom starting to brew that Penn State propaganda. I already hear Hickey starting to make big claims about Penn State. No big deal, no big deal, no big deal. But Tyler Warren is a big deal with his performance this past weekend up against the USC Trojans. Stu?
All right, I'm going to go with the rare player that did not win this weekend in a losing effort.
Wait, this is history. We're going with a losing
player.
Okay.
Has not been done before.
I didn't even know that was a possibility.
Yeah.
You're dangerous.
I was so impressed watching Shedeur Sanders against Kansas State. A really good opponent. He put up some monster numbers. Travis Hunter had an injury as well.
Horn, too.
Yeah, again, 388 yards, 3 touchdowns, and it was kind of like a standalone game because it was on so late at night, so I had a lot of my attention on it. I was just so impressed by him, and he just looks like a guy that could probably be a top 5 pick in the draft.
Jake in Boise sent me this awesome Ashton Genty sweatshirt. If someone listening wants to send me a Rolex so I could do the Rick Ross, do the Shedeur Sanders, I'll gladly do that on the air if you want to send me a Rolex. Just send it to Zach Gelb at 345 Hudson Street, 10th floor, New York, New York. We'll get you the zip code if you want to tweet me at Zach Gelb or get me on Instagram at Zach Gelb, ZachGelb. Okay, I will go to my college coach of the week, and that is Kenny Dillingham with the Arizona State Sun Devils. His team ran for 176 yards up against Kyle Whittingham's team, and they won the football game 27-19. Arizona State, the Sun Devils, are now 5-1. Who had the Sun Devils at 5-1 before the season started? And then I love Kenny Dillingham afterwards. We hit our over. If you won money off of that, go invest it back into the players with name, image, and likeness so we can continue moving the Sun Devil train choo-choo in the right direction. So that's my coach this week, Kenny Dillingham. Stuart?
All right, I will go with Oregon head coach Dan Lanning. Just a statement win against Ohio State, a big win. And while Ryan Day at the end of the game kind of looked lost along with Will Howard, Lanning just, I feel like, outcoached him, had the better coaching game, had the 12 men on the field, which was kind of funny as well, purposely, as he admitted. And yeah, I just think that Oregon's in the pole position in the Big Ten and has a really good chance to make a run.
So there you go. Dan Lanning, quack, 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 Mr. Ducksworth, is Stu's college coach of the week. All righty. Fun superstar shout-outs there. I see Jake from Boise is in the chat. He says, Rolex is a little bit too rich for my blood, LOL, but any Boise State gear, I'm for it. Well, we appreciate you, Jake, and your wife for sending us this Ashton Genty sweatshirt. Heisman sweatshirt, too. The power of NIL. You got to love it. It's awesome. All right, it is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We're going to connect with one of our favorites next. He's the man behind Pro Football Talk. Mike Florio is going to stop by. And we got a lot to discuss with Mike Florio. The Jets get Davante Adams. What does it mean? Are the Steelers really starting Russell Wilson this week over Justin Fields? Appears so. The Bills then counter the Jets getting Davante Adams with them landing Amari Cooper. And where the heck is Hassan Reddick going to be going to? Is he about to get traded? You know, he's allowed to seek a trade. Lions? Dan Campbell? Is that going to be ended up happening? So a lot to get to. We'll do so with Mike Florio from Pro Football Talk when the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network returns in 5 minutes. 5 minutos.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
All righty, hour number 2 of our radio program, rocking and rolling, jam-packed edition of the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. And what is truly a wild day in the football world. Jets lose to the Bills in a game that was just so sloppy. And the referees were terrible. That Espinosa roughing the passer call was just brutal. And I actually thought it was going to be that way in the first half when he made a tackle on the quarterback. I'm like, oh, he may tackle him too hard. They could throw a flag, and then they threw it later in the game. So that was a slop fest of a game. And then afterwards, you find out the Jets trade for Davante Adams, and the Bills counter with getting Amari Cooper. So some AFC East wheeling and dealing. And not only that, now in the AFC North, it looks like the Pittsburgh Steelers are on the verge of going to Russell Wilson, and they're going to sit down Justin Fields, even though the Steelers are 4-2. And then obviously Jerry Jones keeps on opening his mouth and telling people what they should or shouldn't ask him in his weekly radio hits on 105.3 The Fan. Let's go out to the guest line right now and welcome in one of the best people covering the NFL. And that, of course, is my pal Mike Florio of Pro Football Talk. And make sure you get his new book that's out called Son of Mine. Mike, always appreciate when you're able to jump on board with us. Thanks for doing this. How you been?
Zach, thanks for having me. I've been well. It's been crazy. We're already a third of the way through the regular season. At times, it feels like it never ends. At times, it just flies by.
So the Jets today, they put lipstick on a pig. They got a very good player in Davante Adams, but the Jets still have a lot of issues. What's your view of this football team now knowing that the Jets got Aaron Rodgers' best pal in Davante Adams?
Well, I think this is a sign, and Woody Johnson probably didn't use these exact same words, but they're going to do everything they can to justify the decision to move on from Robert Saleh. So go get Davante Adams. I wouldn't be surprised if they pay Hassan Reddick just to get him to show up, maybe make some other moves as well. Go all in to make it look like he did the right thing last week when he fired Robert Saleh out of the blue. These owners all have rabbit ears. he surely heard the things Bill Belichick said yesterday, something fairly innocuous on the Let's Go podcast, but then on the Manning cast last night, basically owner being the owner, ready, fire, aim, and there's animosity there as well. So I think there's a desire by Woody Johnson to prove himself right. And so he's going to go out and he's going to mortgage the future to a certain extent to help make himself look better in the present.
You know, it's interesting that you bring up Hassan Reddick, who they're now allowing seek a trade. I think most people just believe that Hassan's going to get traded somewhere else, but you think that, okay, they could still find a way with Rosenhaus now representing Reddick to get a deal done and try to figure something out with the Jets.
Sometimes when you give a guy permission to seek a trade, you're hoping that he sees what else isn't out there. The 49ers, I believe, thought that Brandon Ayuk was going to find that out before the draft when they gave him permission to quietly see what else was out there, and there were 5 teams that were willing to pay him what he wanted, and then the 49ers were like, uh-oh. So I think that this is, in part, giving Reddick and Rosenhaus a chance to see that what he wants isn't out there, and that anyone that would give him what he wants isn't willing to give the Jets what they would want to get the deal done. That lays the foundation for the Jets and Reddick to work something out if Reddick indeed wants to play. At some point, he's got to come back to avoid the contract tolling into 2025 if he doesn't play this year. And I think we're getting closer and closer to that, although the fact that Reddick has yet to accept an offer from the Jets, his agency fired him, those are all indications that he's not listening to what others think is good reason.
Mike Florio here with us from Pro Football Talk. If everything in your eyes goes right for the Jets the rest of the way, what do you think this team could accomplish after starting 2-4?
I think they could get to the playoffs and lose in the divisional round, kind of like the same as the Cowboys. They can win games. They will lose games. Now, on the nights that Aaron Rodgers plays like old Aaron Rodgers, and I don't mean chronologically old Aaron Rodgers, I mean Aaron Rodgers of yesteryear, they should win the game. It hurts on a night that he plays like he's turned back the clock and they lose. Doesn't hurt as much when he plays poorly and has bad demeanor and gets banged around and they lose to the Vikings the way they did, even though they still almost won that game. They need to win the games when Aaron Rodgers is showing up as Aaron Rodgers of yesteryear. If they don't, it's going to be a problem, and maybe Davante Adams makes them a playoff contender, but I think there's a hard cap on what they can do unless they get hot. And in 2010, they were the last team in Green Bay, went on a run, beat the Eagles in Philly, beat the Falcons handily, the number 1 seed in Atlanta, beat the Bears in Chicago, went to the Super Bowl, beat the Steelers in Dallas. So, you know, something like that's not impossible. Getting hot at the right time isn't impossible, but I just think this is a team that's kind of be up and down, and maybe there's enough up that they get into the playoffs. But you know, the Ravens, the Chiefs, the Texans, I don't know that they can compete with those teams when it's single elimination time.
Yeah, why didn't one of those contenders, Mike, a team like the Ravens, right, who have a window, you got Lamar Jackson, you got Derrick Henry, the Jets give up a 3, there's conditions to make it a 2, the chances of it being a 2 are really slim to none. Why didn't a team like Baltimore just say, bleep it, let me give a second-round pickup to go get Davante Adams?
Yeah, first or second team All-Pro for a guy who has missed multiple games and is in the process of changing cities and changing teams. He's not going to have the kind of production that's going to get him to that level, basically one of the top 4 or 5 receivers in the NFL. I think the Ravens, were interested if they could steal him. I don't think they were willing to mortgage any of the future. And the best GMs think not just of right now, they think of next year too. Woody Johnson is willing to throw next year to the wind to get what he wants right now. And that's why I thought eventually the Raiders would get something, not what they wanted for Davante Adams. And they put out this phony notion over the weekend that I rejected, and I said so at the time, that maybe they're just going to keep him. That is... And this is how the sausage gets made. That is the Raiders asking Adam Schefter for a favor. Will you please put this out there for a Sunday splash report so we can try to rebuild some trade leverage? Because nobody thinks we're going to keep him. We don't have multiple teams in a tug of war for him. We need to sell the idea that maybe we won't trade him to get that last little bit we're looking for from the Jets. And I don't know if it worked, but 2 days later, a trade's done.
Talking to Mike Florio right now, and the Bills, they see the Adams move with the Jets, and they go get Amari Cooper. I think that's a savvy move by one Brandon Beane and the Buffalo Bills.
Well, and it's something that we don't see them do in season. It's back to that balance I was talking about. How much are you willing to mortgage a little bit of the future in order to help yourself in the present? In 2021, Von Miller became available in trade, and Odell Beckham Jr. was cut by the Browns. The Rams picked up both guys. And I remember saying at the time, if the Bills had been the team to get both guys, maybe the Bills would have been the team to win the Super Bowl that year. You have to be willing to make a move at the right time for the right reason and the right price, and then hope it pays off. That kind of is what Jerry Jones got so pissed about today. You're going to make some decisions that you think are good, that go bad. You're going to make some decisions that might look bad and turn out to be good. And don't rattle off my failures without giving me praise for some of my accomplishments. He's saying that because he's made some bad decisions. And we don't know how these decisions are going to work out. And I think a lot of times teams will get paralyzed with fear of the unknown and not do deals. And I think maybe that's why the Cowboys maybe didn't do some of the deals they could have done, like Derrick Henry. The whole league whiffed on Derrick Henry except the Ravens. It's easy to blame the Cowboys because he wanted to play in Dallas by all indications. But it all comes down to mortgaging the future versus helping yourself now and having a crystal ball that no one has to understand that that move isn't just going to be a waste of future draft picks.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the way that I remember it was going into the offseason, everyone said, oh, get the deal done before the start of free agency with Dak so you could spread out that contract the way that you want and open up some more cap room for this year. That's the point that, and the problem that I have with Jerry Jones is they like kind of dragged this thing throughout the entire offseason, and then right as the season started, you get the deal done. It would have been more productive to get the deal done back in March, and you could have maybe been more aggressive this offseason.
You're right. And CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah.
Both of them. CeeDee Lamb held out until not long before week one, had a huge cap number, nearly $18 million that got chopped down by $8 or $9 million, maybe as many as $10 million. Dak Prescott had that huge cap number that needed to be dropped. And remember, Jerry Jones said Senior Bowl week, he's all in the traditional sense, not some made up to make it fit whatever you wanted to fit gaslight sense. All chips in the middle of the table. We're trying to win now. That kind of all in, the kind of all in the Jets may be inclined to do. And you can't do it if you don't do deals for Lamb and Prescott. And the only potential genius here, and I don't know that it's worth giving him this bit of credit, by waiting as long as he did with Lamb and Prescott, he didn't have to worry about Micah Parsons banging on the door saying, I want mine. Parsons was more likely to go along and wait his spot and wait his turn. But that's giving him too much credit. I think you're just being cheap. I said at the time, they're cheap, they're short-sighted, and they're not as smart as they think they are. When they were wandering through this minefield of free agency and really not even entering the door because they said, well, we can't afford it. We need cap space. We need this. We need that. And they could have done it, and they could have made the moves necessary to keep the team from playing in 3 home regular season games like they played in the home playoff game.
Mike Florio from Pro Football Talk here with us. On October 15th right now, if you had to give me your best educated guess on where Belichick is coaching next year, what would you say, Mike?
I think about this more than I should, and it's not healthy. There has to be a fan base that wants him, and I think that's why he's doing so much media this year. You have to say that this 73-year-old head coach with a history of being kind of a miserable curmudgeon is the guy who's going to make the difference for your franchise and get you excited about the future. You need an owner who is willing to either throw him the keys to the car or take the risk that if you make him just the coach and he's working for a GM who is maybe half his age, that it's going to work and not be a disaster. Now, he is the best game day X's and O's, get your guys ready to go play. Whoever you give me, I'll get the best out of them head coach that the NFL has ever seen. So that's the selling point. I think that when it's all said and done, and I hate to say this because I don't want to prematurely put people on the hot seat or presume they're going to lose their jobs, but I could see the Giants putting him in control of everything because he's wanted to go there. And if you're faced with the prospect of him going to Dallas or Philadelphia, let's just bring him here. Let's not deal with him. Let's deal with him. And I think that would be the one team that stands out to me. Because if the Cowboys and Eagles were going to do it, why the hell didn't they do it after the 2023 season? That would have been the perfect time to make the change.
And the fascinating part to this is what Bill is going to value. because if he just values the control and you go to the Giants, you're not going to win a whole lot of games. But he could go win games and, easily get that Shula record, go make a few playoff runs. I don't know if he's going to win a Super Bowl if you go to a place like Philadelphia or if you go to a place like Dallas. You're not really going to go on this great run with how bare the roster is in New York right now.
Well, you're right. And Philadelphia is a place where they desperately need a grown-up on the sidelines. What Nick Sirianni did on Sunday was, I think, unbecoming. I think it was stupid. To get yourself caught up in an argument with fans, that's part of what you have to deal with. That's part of the life they've chosen. You're supposed to be, and I'm not saying act like Bud Grant and Tom Landry used to act and never make a facial expression, but you need to be able to ignore the people who hide behind the anonymity of a crowd to say things they'd never say to you face to face. Now, maybe in Philly they would, but for the most part, like the commissioner's a great example. You put him in front of the crowd and there's a boo. And then he walks out of the crowd. Hey, come on. Let's take a selfie, commissioner. So I think that as a coach, you just need to understand it goes with the territory. And if you engage, Fred Gaudelli reminded me of this Bill Walsh quote after this happened on Sunday. If you listen to the fans, you're going to be sitting with them. And Sirianni, if he keeps acting like that, he'll be the guy up in row 6 yelling at the head coach before too long.
Last thing I'll ask you before the book, Mike Florio, when it comes to the Steelers, it looks like with all the reporting, I know Tomlin wouldn't confirm it today, that they're going to Russell Wilson. Do you like this move? Like, I know Fields hasn't been great, but they're 4-2, and I don't get why the Steelers feel like they owe something to Russell Wilson making, $1.5 million this year.
Well, they don't owe him anything, and I think that if they believe Justin Fields gave them the best chance to win, they would find a way to continue to delay this. I'm surprised they didn't go back to Wilson last week. I thought that's when it was happening. Once he fully participated in practice, because Tony Dungy was at practice the prior Thursday before the Cowboys-Steelers game on NBC, and he said Russell Wilson was tearing up the scout team. So you get it, or he was running the scout team, tearing up the first-team defense, even better. So you get him participating fully in practice last week, and I thought that was the perfect time because Fields kind of fell flat against the Cowboys. You're not really benching him. QB1 is still QB1, and he's healthy now, so off we go. I thought it would happen last week, and the Raiders game would have been a great opportunity to kind of help him get his feet wet. They're not at home, but they had a big showing of fans there, and it was an overmatched opponent. Now, they have back-to-back. I had in my head that the second game is at the Giants. It's back-to-back home games, prime time. Sunday night, Monday night, Jets, Giants. They could be 6-2 at the bye. And it looks like if you tune into NBC or Peacock on Sunday night at 8 Eastern, you're going to get your money's worth because you're going to get to see Russell Wilson in his official and final debut with the Steelers.
All righty, before we let you run, everyone knows where to get all the NFL news on Pro Football Talk. I know you had the book out, Father of Mine. Now you got Son of Mine. Is that correct, Mike Florio?
Son of Mine is the book, $4.99 ebook on Amazon, $14.99 for the print edition. It picks up exactly where Father of Mine left off. Father of Mine, a mob story set in Wheeling, West Virginia, where I was raised, and my dad was a bookie connected to the mob there. So I saw some things that I didn't quite understand when I was young. I learned some things as I got older, and I had an inspiration one night to just sit down and start typing. And the next thing you know, you got 100,000 words and you slap it together and you put it out there. And it's been very well received. Given that what I do normally is kind of in that Sirianni category where you got to have thick skin because there's people who are going to hate what you write and like what you write, and you just keep cashing the checks as long as they keep coming. I have gotten overwhelmingly positive feedback for Father of Mine and Son of Mine. And I can't share the name, but somebody who was moved by something I wrote about my dad bought $10,000 worth of Father of Mine books and had them sent to my house for me to donate as I see fit. So I'm currently basically what I decided to do, Zach, like I'm sending 25 copies to a retired New York firefighter who's going to take them to 25 station houses.
Awesome. The
Division of Corrections in West Virginia. Now that they've approved the subject matter, because I didn't think they'd approve it because it's a crime. You don't want to be giving the inmates any ideas for, crimes they could commit. So they have a standard about what you can and can't send there. They accepted it. So I'm going to send them a bunch. And I'm just basically taking it one good request at a time. Somebody's having a fundraiser for a friend that has cancer. Can you send a signed copy? So Florio at ProFootballTalk.com. If anybody's got any ideas on what I can do with these, I got a garage full of these freaking books. And I got to move them, but I'm only going to move them to places that I think are good causes. So buy Father of Mine for $3.99 Read it by a son of mine for $4.99. And, reading, Zach, and I'll shut up after this. It's kind of like football, because football gives us something that we can look forward to that takes us away from the day-to-day crap. And if you're reading a good book, that's something that takes you away from the day-to-day crap. That's how I justify our role in the broader societal ecosystem. We're not really contributing anything other than an oasis from the day-to-day crap.
Absolutely love it. Well, Mike Florio, we appreciate the time as always. Thanks for doing this.
Thanks, buddy. See you.
There you go. Mike Florio joining us from Pro Football Talk. And make sure you get the book once again. You get Father of Mine, you get Son of Mine, you get both. Can't even get 2 slices of pizza in New York City for the prices he's charging for those books. That's a steal if you're looking to read something that's pretty damn cool. All righty, we'll take a timeout. Good stuff there with Mike. How about that? The Giants was the prediction for Bill Belichick. Yeah, I know that's been talked about, but I would have thought, as I told him, Eagles more likely and the Cowboys more likely as well. And he still thinks Hassan Reddick can wind back up with the Jets. That wasn't on my bingo card either. All righty, we will take a timeout. When we come on back, we're touching the Bills. We're touching Amari Cooper going there. And then also, does this move in Amari Cooper going from Cleveland to Buffalo say something about Deshaun Watson? We'll get into that next. Football is back, and what better way to celebrate than winning some cash with Sleeper Picks? Sleeper Picks is a fantasy game, but you can win real money. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player stats. If your picks are right, you win. You can pick up to 8 players to win up to 100 times your money, and Sleeper has a couple of huge offers to kickstart the football season. For new users, Sleeper will match your first deposit with up to $100 credit to your account. If you've already played, Sleeper's got discounts to player projections for you every week of the season. So download the Sleeper app now and use promo code SCORE, and your first deposit will be doubled with a credit up to $100. What are you waiting for? Download Sleeper today and use code SCORE, that's S-C-O-R-E, for a credit up to $100 match on your first deposit. That's code SCORE. Must be 18 years in most states and in state where it is legal. Promo code and other restrictions apply. Visit sleeper.com. Please wager responsibly. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-426-2537 for help. Paid for by Blitz Studios.
You're in a 4-minute break. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. 1 minute remaining. "45 seconds remaining. "30 seconds remaining. "15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
You're listening to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
Alrighty, so give credit to the Buffalo Bills because they've been a team the last few years that we've been looking at and we've been saying, okay, you could add another wide receiver. And then this past offseason, they needed to get rid of Stephon Diggs, and then they didn't really go make an aggressive move. Yeah, sure, they got Keon Coleman in the draft. Shakir's going to be a solid wide receiver for them, but they weren't going out there and getting another number one quality wide receiver. And then, you find out today, okay, in the middle of the night, Davante Adams gets traded from the Raiders to the Jets. Okay, why didn't a team like Buffalo go get Davante Adams? Why didn't the Ravens go get Davante Adams? And then the moment you see one deal happens, it kind of has a domino effect. And we just saw Amari Cooper get traded from the Cleveland Browns to the Buffalo Bills. And Amari Cooper, he's one of the more underrated wide receivers in the league. He was very good with the Raiders. Then he became great with the Cowboys. We know what he did at Alabama. He's had back-to-back 1,000-yard receiving seasons with the Cleveland Browns. And now the Cleveland Browns, who, it was talked about maybe they're going to move on from Amari Cooper when you go back to the Brandon Ayuk trade. That never ended up happening, but there was that thought, all right, Brandon Ayuk will get traded to the Browns, and then the Niners are looking for a win-now player, so you go get Amari Cooper if you're going to give up someone like Brandon Ayuk. And we know that didn't come to fruition, but now the Brownies have sent Amari Cooper to the Buffalo Bills. And the trade, it's wild, right? Because if memory serves me right, Stu, the Raiders, did they get a first-round pick from the Cowboys for Amari Cooper?
They got a first-round pick that I believe was used on Josh Jacobs.
And then when the when the Cowboys traded Amari Cooper, it was for nothing.
It was a 5.
A fifth, yeah. It was nothing. It was for peanuts. So Amari Cooper continues to get disrespected because, the Browns get back a third-round pick and a seventh-round pick, which I guess is fair now if Davante Adams is going for a conditional 3, and the Bills get back Amari Cooper and a 6th-round pick. So that's a nothing burger for Amari Cooper, but Amari Cooper's time was up with Cleveland. They're going nowhere, so you send him somewhere where he could have a chance to go win. That's a great move by the Bills. And you look at the Bills, when they get James Cook back, if Dalton Kincaid can take that next step, you now have Amari Cooper. Now it drops everyone down a spot in Shakir and also Keon Coleman. The Buffalo Bills, I don't know if there's going to be a lot of moments this year where we're overly praising them in the regular season. But you want to talk about a team that if they could just get in, they could win it all. It's the Buffalo Bills. And the Bills should win this division. You look at this division, the Patriots stink. The Jets are 2-4. And they have a long ways to go, even with all the talent that they have. Miami's 2-3. They're getting Tua back. Probably not this week. Obviously, sit out one more week, but maybe the week after that. Buffalo's been the king of this division ever since Tom Brady elected to walk on up out of New England and go down south to Tampa Bay. So who's the best quarterback in this division? It's Josh Allen. You could make a case that there's other rosters in this division that are better, but the Patriots aren't winning squat. Aaron Rodgers looking like a 40-year-old quarterback playing on one leg. I have no clue what to expect from Tua Tagovailoa the rest of the way. So, yeah, Josh Allen being Superman, and Josh Allen, even if it doesn't look all that pretty, will do enough to string along 10 wins. And they're not going to have a bye, but you're going to have a home playoff game. And it's not like this Buffalo Bills team. I know we look at them and we go, oh, they can't win. They can't do this. They can't do that. What has happened with Buffalo is similar to what did transpire when you look at the Brady-Manning rivalry in the early 2000s. For the first few years, Tom Brady and the Patriots kicked the crap out of Peyton Manning. And we looked at Peyton Manning and it was like all-time great quarterback, going to be an all-time great quarterback, unbelievable statistical seasons, but he can't win the big game. Sometimes you just go and you face a team that it looks like the sword is planted into the ground and there's no way of finding a way to drag that sword out. There's just no way. But eventually one day you have enough might where you're able to fight through that sword being stuck and you grab it and you yank it out of the ground. That's what the Buffalo Bills with Josh Allen in an open year in football need to do. And this move getting Amari Cooper, like the Jets getting Davante Adams, yeah, I understand why the Jets make the move, but it doesn't elicit a response of me now believing that the Jets are going to go on to accomplish greatness this year. I'm not saying that Amari Cooper makes me think that the Bills will definitely get to the Super Bowl this year, because that would be crazy. But you look in the AFC right now, all right, Kansas City is undefeated. The Ravens look like a force. The Texans are really damn good. But it's not like any of those teams, you look at them and you say you can't beat them. So I understand for Buffalo, right, they played a bad first half against Arizona, then came on strong. They blew out the Miami Dolphins. They blew out the Jaguars. They got blown out by the Ravens. They played a bad first half, then played a good second half up against the Texans. And if the coach, McDermott, if he just elected to run the football, maybe that game goes to overtime and they actually win it. And then they beat the Jets last night when they were without their most valuable offensive player if you take Josh Allen out of the mix, with James Cook being out. So that Bills team, they have work to do. But a move like this, getting Amari Cooper, gives them a legit, proven wide receiver. And if they just get in, which I think they'll win the AFC East, they're going to have a chance, a legitimate chance, to go win a Super Bowl. And go get to a Super Bowl. Now, it's still an uphill climb, I get it. But they're one of those teams that if there's a circle of trust right now, they're on the outside, but they could very quickly find a way to swim smoothly in there, is where I'm going at with the Buffalo Bills. But I will say this on the Amari Cooper front. I wonder, because Marco, you know this in sports all the time. How many times does a coach say something one week and then the next week what he said is totally different, or even in that same week? Like, we have seen it. Organizations say they're not trading a player, then they trade a player. Or organizations saying this guy's going to be their starter for the rest of the year, and then they don't. I'm just going to ask this, and I'll throw this out there. The Cleveland Browns are paying Deshaun Watson regardless. It's a fully guaranteed contract. Unless something off the field gives them an out in getting out of the contract, they are paying that $230-something million guaranteed to him, whether they like it or not. Now, he has 2 more years left on this contract. I know Kevin Stefanski, he looked like a hostage victim, if I'm being serious, the other day, when he was basically saying, yeah, Deshaun Watson is our starting quarterback. He gives us the best chance to win. Hey, Coach Stefanski, blink twice if something is going wrong. Like, I was concerned for Kevin Stefanski. Does trading a player like Amari Cooper, does it maybe inch them closer? Because even though they only have 1 win and their season's over, that's really waving the flag. Does it maybe inch them closer to sitting down Deshaun Watson, even with all the money that they're paying him?
Maybe. but doubtful, because I don't think this is Kevin Stefanski's call. I don't think this is anybody's call but the owner and Haslam. I think he made this move. He went all in. He spent this money, and he doesn't want to look like a fool. And I think if Jameis Winston comes in, who's got his warts, but he can play. He can play. He can throw the football. He could sling it. That's something that Deshaun Watson, he's going to make mistakes, but he can sling it.
At least Winston has a little bit of confidence.
But also what he has
Deshaun has no confidence anymore.
But he's somewhat similar in the Joe Flacco range. Flacco makes a lot of mistakes, but he's not afraid to make the mistake, and he's going to make a lot of plays with it, and I can't move, but he can do that. That was what they had last year, and Jameis Winston's kind of in that same mold. Yeah, he's going to make mistakes. Yeah, he's going to throw it away sometimes, but he's going to make big plays. And I think that Haslam's a little afraid that if they do that, there's no coming back. And he doesn't want to spend $230-something million without getting anything for it. And he also looks like a fool. Not only did you spend that money, you guaranteed it, which everybody was up in arms when you did it. And you did it with a guy who had all kinds of issues off the field that you were willing to throw that under the rug to do. I think it makes him look silly. I think it makes him look stupid. And I think it makes him uneasy that he's willing to pull the plug right now. I think he's willing to maybe blow this whole thing up and even blame it all on Stefanski, whatever it is, as long as it doesn't land in his lap, because that's the only spot it goes right now.
Yeah, the crazy part about this is that team was such a fun team last year, the Cleveland Browns. Mm-hmm. And I understand, right, they've had a ton of injuries on the offensive line. You have Nick Chubb going through another terrible injury, which no one likes to see, going back to last year. And you look at Cleveland, I'm not just chalking it up to only Deshaun Watson, because they've had some unfavorable things happen to them this year. But you know this, with how much of a sport football is like team chemistry and vibes, and sometimes the team that has better chemistry could go beat a team, even if the other team has so much more talent. This dark cloud around the organization in Deshaun Watson, when the locker room knows the truth and they know that his good days, not even great days, his good days are shot, it's a dark, ominous cloud hanging over this organization. Yep. And it is totally, even though there's other areas to blame and there's injuries and things like that, but it has derailed the season because last year they lost this guy. They had a ton of injuries as well in the offensive line. They lost their best offensive player, Nick Chubb, and they were still in the postseason and were one of the more fun stories in the league. But even if Cleveland says now, okay, we'll rip off the Band-Aid, we'll sit Deshaun Watson, it's already too late. Your season's already over. You got one win right now.
Yeah, no, then that's definitely part of it. And I to go back to the root of this, though, I'm still a little lost, and I wonder if they know the answer. Like, what happened? Is it just the shoulder injury and he can't throw it anymore? Because the idea that, like, well, he spent so much time away. You should be able to read it when you're 75 on the couch. I don't expect your body to be able to play, but I expect your mind to still be able to pick it up. You talk to quarterbacks that played in the NFL, they could see it. I just can't do it. I can't protect myself. I can throw it. I can't see. I can read it. I can throw it, but my body can't handle everything up. What the hell happened?
This is what I think happened. I think this is someone that was once viewed as a great player. We all looked at Deshaun Watson and we said, top 7 quarterback in the NFL, top 8, top 10 quarterback in the league. Mm-hmm. His last great year was 2020. That was his last great year. 2021, his choice. Before all the things came out, he was ready to move on from the Texans. He wasn't playing again. Right. So he sat it all of 2021. Yeah. Then he was suspended for all of 2020, for most of 2022, and came back in the last 6 games of the season. Yeah. Then in 2023, had a good moment, 1 game, then got hurt, was out for the season. Mm-hmm. You're 3 years removed, 3 to 4 years now removed from your last great moment. Sure. I just think this dude is mentally cooked up here, where he's starting to chase and he's starting to say, and he can't deal with the pressure. He's not tough enough to deal with the pressure. And he's looking at this and he's saying, I used to be good. I'm trying to still be great. And it has totally made him just like paralyzed as a quarterback.
I'm still lost by it because he's not shell-shocked where he's reading it too quick because he's afraid to get hit. He hasn't been hit. So that's not it. His internal clock hasn't sped up. And it's not that he's, afraid to pull the trigger. Every time he throws the football, you're like, where are you throwing it? So I don't know what the hell happened. So whether it's, you got to get a psychologist in, like I wonder if that's part of this with Haslam, where he looks at it and he goes, why does this not work? Because the guy physically should be able to play. What exactly is the issue? Is it your offense? So that's part of this, going back to what you were talking about. It goes back to the same thing. I wonder if this is all going to get laid at the feet of Stefanski because it's, 1, I don't want to look like the dummy, and 2, The guy still physically can play. So what happened? What's wrong?
Well, maybe this is going too far into it, but it is something that I gotta bring up with what happened off the field and what he allegedly, I got to be careful with how I say this, got away with. You know, everyone loved Deshaun Watson before this. Everyone praised Deshaun Watson. Everyone thought Deshaun Watson was this good dude. And then a lot of ugly truth came out about Deshaun Watson. And even though I have zero sympathy for him, guy got a fully guaranteed contract when, quite frankly, he should probably be sitting in a jail cell. You know, up there, maybe he just doesn't know how to handle with finally getting people constantly going after him and constantly being critical for him. And maybe knowing down deep, man, I got a little bit of guilty conscience because I got away with it.
I don't know. If that's the case, again, you're going to need all kinds of psychologists to try to figure it out.
He's never going to be a good player.
But I'm still lost by that. I still keep coming back to it because every time he throws the football, I'm like, is it just that your shoulder is completely shot? Because that,
Could be.
that I can understand.
Yeah.
That makes sense. That logically for me, like, okay, you can't throw it anymore.
I think it's physically and mentally.
But you physically can't
It's got to be
anymore.
a mix.
I just don't understand how you can't read it. Because there's times where you look at it and he goes, this guy, he's your number one primary option. He's wide open. You threw it, and you missed it by 20 feet. How is that possible? That's the part I don't get.
You know why I lean that it's more mental, too? I lean that it's more mental because if he was an actual franchise quarterback, and if he was an alpha, and if he didn't give a bleep about what was going on, Joe Flacco would still be this team's backup quarterback. And the only reason why Joe Flacco wasn't not the backup quarterback, wasn't even offered a deal, is because Deshaun was afraid of Joe Flacco. I love Joe Flacco. But if you're afraid of Joe Flacco and you have a fully guaranteed contract, you're not my quarterback.
Yeah,
you're not an alpha. That's
definitely fair. And again, and then turn around and go and get Jameis Winston, who seems to be perfectly content to sit behind him and watch this disaster unfold week in and week out. And I'm not saying Winston doesn't want to play. You give him the football, he's going to go play.
Sure.
That's one thing about Jameis Winston. He's going to go out there and give it everything he's got. There's something just not, obviously, there's something not right through this whole situation. Yeah. And I don't know if Kevin Stefanski is going to survive all of this. And that's why you go back to the hostage comment. He knows. He has no control. And I think he looks at it and goes, I was a two-time coach of the year. I was getting blood out of a stone.
Yeah.
And you're giving me this.
Twice in Cleveland.
You're giving me this. And you're expecting me to turn this into something that it once was. I don't know what else to do. There's nothing left here. And I feel like this is going to be a 2 to 3 year where we're going to do this conversation next year. And towards the end of next year,
no, I hope not.
You're going to, towards the end of next year, that's when they'll finally turn the page, when they'll finally give up. Because at that point, Haslam knows it's only 1 year, and then you're ripping the Band-Aid off. It's too much money. It's too much time. I think he's afraid to do it.
It is Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We'll come on back with a little overreaction, proper reaction, update time first. Here he is, El Capitan, Marco Belletti.
Infinity Sports Network. Sports Flash.
Now, Zach rumored for a while, but now it's done. Davante Adams to the Jets for a conditional third rounder. Gets reunited with Aaron Rodgers after the two played 8 years together in Green Bay. Jets owner Woody Johnson feels this is a dynamic piece to throw in the mix for his offense.
I think he adds to the running game. He really makes everything. He opens up everything. You know, particularly having that relationship with the quarterback. That's very important.
Bills also had a weapon, reportedly get Amari Cooper from the Browns for a third-round pick. Jerry Jones not thrilled with the idea. He didn't do enough this offseason to help his Cowboys. This while a guest with Sean and RJ on 105.3 The Fan in Dallas.
Now, if you think I'm interested on a damn phone call with you over a radio and sitting here and throwing all the good out with the dishwater, you have got to be smoking something over there this morning. I'm not.
Yankees and Guardians, Game 2 ALCS tonight. Bombers looking for a 2-0 series advantage. Phillies, they extended their manager Rob Thompson through 2026 after he brought home their first division title since 2011, although they did lose a divisional round playoff series to the Mets. I'm Marco Belletti.
Hey, like us on Facebook. Our handle is INF Sportsnet. That's INF Sportsnet for our Facebook page. This is the Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. 4 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Another NFL week is complete, which means it's another week to freak out about your favorite team. Which takes are truly crazy.
But sometimes a game can be so bad, it's almost good. You know what I'm saying? No.
And which are so crazy, they might be right.
He's 6'5", he's 245 pounds. He's probably a Popeye's biscuit away from being a tight end.
Zach lets you know in this week's edition of Overreaction or Proper Reaction.
And this portion of the show is brought to you by Ethos Life, the easy way to get life insurance in 10 minutes, up to $2 million in coverage with no medical exam and just a few health questions. Get your free quote at checkethos.com. Not available in all states. Stu?
All right, with the Jets trading for Davante Adams, it'll pair him with Garrett Wilson. The former Buckeye standout has pulled in 21 catches for 208 yards and 2 scores the past 2 games for Gang Green. Overreaction or proper reaction, Davante Adams and Garrett Wilson are a top 8 duo in the NFL.
Yeah, proper reaction. I think that's a pretty low bar, top 8. Like, sure, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. When healthy, Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. Like, Ayuk and Deebo Samuel haven't been that special this year. Ayuk's really done nothing since getting that contract outside of one game. Nico Collins and Stephon Diggs, Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. So there's names there. But yeah, Davante Adams is a top 10 wide receiver in the league, and Garrett Wilson had 2 1,000-yard receiving wide receiver seasons without Aaron Rodgers. So yeah, it's a top 8 duo. But am I going top 3 in the league? No, but top 8, I would say that's a proper reaction.
The Browns are off to a brutal 1-5 start, and Deshaun Watson is a big reason why. The controversial quarterback is 24th in yards, 25th in touchdowns, and 28th in QB rating. But Kevin Stefanski said that they won't bench Watson for Jameis Winston anytime soon. So overreaction or proper reaction, the Browns should start Jameis Winston.
Proper reaction. I would rip off the Band-Aid and start the healing process in Cleveland. Deshaun Watson isn't that dude. Deshaun Watson stinks. He's got 2 years left in the contract after this year. You're paying him the money either way. The dude, as John Fanta would say, the dude just can't play anymore. So you have your pick this year. I would throw Winston to the Wolves and just stop having us go through having to see Deshaun Watson each and every week, because it is ugly.
The Steelers are 4-2, and while the offense under Justin Fields has struggled at times, they did look sharp last week, putting 32 points up on my Raiders. However, Fields has just 5 passing touchdowns and has thrown for over 160 yards in a game just twice in his 6 starts. Now reports say that Russell Wilson is fully healthy and will get first-team reps this week. Overreaction or proper reaction, the Steelers should stick with Justin Fields as their starter.
This could work going to Russell Wilson because you play the Jets or the Giants the next 2 weeks on Sunday Night Football and Monday Night Football, as Mike Florio from Pro Football Talk, who joined us kick off the hour, did point out. But I don't think it's the right move. You're 4-2. I'm not benching Justin Fields right now, and I also think his mobility helps out an offensive line that isn't all that good. So when you ask me the Steelers should stick with Fields as their starter, I think that's a proper reaction. I would not go back to Russ.
Now, Jerry Jones has never shied away from speaking with the media, even when he probably should just stay quiet. However, things came to a head today after Jerry lost his cool on his weekly radio spot with Sean and RJ on 105.3 The Fan in Dallas.
If you think I'm interested on a damn phone call with you over a radio and sitting here and throwing all the good out with the dishwater, you have got to be smoking something over there this morning. I'm not, and I really don't, and I don't even want our listeners to listen to me. To talk about, this is not your job. Your job isn't to let me go over all the reasons that I did something, and I'm sorry that I did it. That's not your job.
Well, my job is to ask
why.
Get
a job, or I'll get somebody else to ask these questions, man.
Jerry, we're trying to figure out why the team is.
I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. You're not going to figure out it's
your
what
football
the team is
sucks.
doing right
I'm
or
not
wrong.
kidding, Jerry.
If you are, or any 5 or 10 like you need to come to this meeting I'm going to today. There are 32 teams here. You're geniuses. Y'all really think you're going to sit here with a microphone and tell me all of the things that I've done wrong and without going over the right? So let's just go ahead. I'm trying to answer your questions, man. You want some conversation this morning? You're getting it.
All right, so overreaction or proper reaction, the Cowboys should stop sending Jerry out to speak with the media.
Overreaction. It's not like it's a Cowboy decision. It's Jerry Jones' decision. He runs the team. He's the guy who wants to do this. This is who he is. So, yeah, it'd be great if he stopped, but I find it entertaining, and I find just how stupid he sounds to be absolutely amusing. So the Cowboys should stop sending Jerry Jones out to speak with the media. I guess but it's not really the Cowboys' decision. It's Jerry Jones' decision. So I'm going overreaction on that one. And that's how we'll conclude overreaction, proper reaction today. There is some Belichick sound that we have to get to later, and it will ask a very good question on, since we know Belichick, anyone actually think Belichick was going to be the coach of the Jets, please? Yeah, you're crazy. You're delusional. But since Belichick basically just dumped all over the Jets organization and Woody Johnson last night, who would be the best potential candidate to be the next HC of the NYJ a year from now? Because it's not going to be Jeff Ulbrich. I'll tell you that. So we will get to that as well and a few other things in the final hour of the extravaganza on this very busy Tuesday. Coming up in the next hour, who will regret not trading for Davante Adams? With him going to the JTS Jets. We will play you that Bill Belichick audio as well in the next segment. And coming up in 25 minutes from now, we do have a news brief to get to as we'll update some of the biggest stories in the world of sports with some audio. And then right at 5:35 p.m. Eastern time, you don't want to miss it, right here on the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Indianapolis Colts running back Jonathan Taylor is going to join us. So a whole lot more to do. We got 3 more segments to play, 60 minutes to go on a very busy Tuesday, and we get things continuing in 5 minutes from now, right here on the Infinity Sports Network. It is the Zach Gelb Show.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Alrighty, hour number 3 of our radio program. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Almost, not exactly half, but almost half of the teams in the NFL right now have 2 wins or fewer. So this chase to the number 1 overall pick, and I know we're only 6 weeks in, is actually going to be fascinating. And Stu, the reason why I bring this up, it actually has to be Raiders related, as you're listening to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network, is that today we found out that Tom Brady's minority ownership stake with the Las Vegas Raiders has been approved. And not only has Tom Brady been approved as a minority owner, Richard Seymour, the former Patriot and Raider, he also got a minority share as well. Seymour has like a 0.5% stake of the team, and Tom Brady has a 10% ownership stake in the team. But the idea and the belief is that Tom Brady isn't just going to have 10% ownership of the Raiders and is going to be hands off. He's going to be very involved in constructing the roster and the player personnel side of things. Is just like kind of what you've seen, Stu, out there and the way that it's been reported. So can I just throw a theory out there?
Sure.
You know, you're probably hoping that on October 15th, you wouldn't be getting draft talk with the Raiders.
No,
right?
But usually that's what happens with the Raiders. Usually around this time, you start kind of thinking about next year.
So I don't know what your answer is. I'm just genuinely asking, but this is the way that I feel about this. So I'll ask you the question first, and I'll give you my answer. Brady being a minority owner of the Raiders, what intrigues you the most about that? Just wondering. Like utilizing Tom Brady to do what?
I see. I'm not even like big on. I'm not big on it. I just don't understand the impact it's going to have. Like he doesn't have any experience running a team, so I don't get it from that perspective. Does he really bring in interest of non-Raiders fans? Like, sure, maybe some
Raider fans hate his guts.
And that's the other thing. Raider fans,
because you guys still
don't
bitching
like
about
him.
the Tuck rule.
Yeah, so I don't
babies, losers.
Well, I mean, we both know it was absurd, but.
What was absurd about it?
I mean, it was the right rule, but I mean, they got.
Wait, you thought that was a fumble?
It was. You
seriously thought that was a fumble?
Of course.
I don't know what football you're watching. If Aaron Rodgers didn't fumble that football last night, which how stupid is that? They should have left the call on the field be what it was. Then they did the expedited review, and then I didn't know this last night. If there's an expedited review, since that's basically like New York being God and being the voice of God in the eyes of God, that you then can't challenge that, which I guess kind of makes sense because if New York is already going to reverse it and expedite the review, then what's going to make them change doing something a minute later? That's why I thought they should have kept the call on the field and then have someone challenge that. But if that Rodgers thing wasn't a fumble, and if that was a pass when he threw the ball behind him, then Brady, definitely that was an incomplete pass.
Yeah, still, 20 years later, it still hurts. But because that was a really good chance they had. Like they could have won the Super Bowl that year.
Sure.
Could have, should have.
But they didn't.
Yeah.
So here's my point. My point is this. What intrigues me the most, and just because you were a great player doesn't mean you're a good owner. Look at Michael Jordan, right? All-time great, the greatest basketball player ever, not a good owner. But I think the quarterback the Raiders end up selecting this year in the draft is going to have Brady's fingerprints on it. I think that's going to be a Brady decision, not a Tom Telesco decision. Not an Antonio Pierce decision. That's going to be a Tom Brady decision. I think Mark Davis is going to defer to Tom Brady in that matter because, Brady is the GOAT. So, who does Tom Brady have a very close relationship with? Shedeur Sanders. Now, I don't know where the Raiders are going to be picking in the draft. As this is not going to make you happy, Stu. Do you know what pick the Raiders would have if the season ended today?
So they already have 2 wins.
But almost half the league has 2 wins or fewer.
It's got to be close to 10. It's got to be maybe 7 or 8.
They're at 11 right now.
11, yeah. It's
the 2-4 Cardinals, the 2-4 Saints, the 2-4 Bengals, the 2-4 Jets, 1-4 Tennessee, 1-4 Rams, 1-5 Carolina, 1-5 Jacksonville, 1-5 Cleveland, and then my Pats, 1-5, have the number 1 overall.
Now, I think the Raiders are worse than a lot of those teams. Not all of those teams, but a lot of those teams, I would say.
Okay. So, I would expect the Raiders to move up in the draft board, especially with now no longer having Davante Adams and you're going back to Aiden O'Connell. Newsflash, not a good quarterback. So, if the Raiders are in the top 10, which I think there's a good chance, the Raiders are going to be in the top 10. I look at the Raiders as a team that if Shedeur is there, when Brady and the Raiders are now on the clock, weird statement, they're going to be picking Shedeur Sanders. Now, he may not be there because look at the teams in front of him, and I don't know if Shedeur's going to be the first quarterback off the board, but he's going to be a top 3 quarterback in this draft class. I feel confident saying that. And you look at the teams in front of the Raiders right now, just for fun, Cleveland needs a quarterback. The Jaguars just paid Lawrence. They're going to keep him. Carolina could use a quarterback, right? They've already given up on Bryce Young. The Rams, even though they have Stafford, he's old. Tennessee needs a quarterback. Imagine if the Jets draft a quarterback after Aaron Rodgers, if he's back for 1 more year. Cincinnati doesn't. The Saints need a quarterback. Arizona, I think they'll continue with Kyler Murray, but that's not a lock. Those are 5-6 teams we just mentioned. So the Raiders, they'll continue to lose more games. The Raiders will probably be picking anywhere 5 to 8, right?
That's fair, yeah.
They're not the worst team in the league, but they're not good. And I don't think they could be mediocre. So that would be my early prediction right now. Brady, and maybe they trade up to do so. I think Brady's going to do everything in his power because that's a 10% ownership share of the team, but I think it's more in terms of what the impact's going to be than what the investment is. I think Brady's going to try to go get Shedeur Sanders. That's my prediction right now with the Raiders.
I would sign up for that.
He would sign up for anybody other than Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew.
Yeah, it would definitely be an upgrade. But just looking at some of the quarterbacks that are coming out, I would say he excites me the most. I'm not saying he's going to be the best one.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to go down that road of trying to guess what these guys do. But
Cam Ward also exciting. He's also exciting.
But it worries me that he had such a bad grade heading into this past draft that he got, reportedly at least.
Now, to be fair, Jaden Daniels, I remember talking to him at the Heisman, and McAfee and Herbstreit were trying to pump him up, and they thought he was going to be the steal of the draft. It's not like he had an incredible like high grade. And also, Joe Burrow, I know he'd end up having an all-time great season. I'm not saying Cam Ward's going to go on to do that. But Joe Burrow was like, what, a 6th-round pick? The year prior to end up going on that all-time great run and being the number 1 overall pick of the draft. So it could change rather quickly. But to your point, though, do any of these grades really matter? How many times do these guys go in the top 5 and they end up stinking? And then a guy that everyone's like, oh, he's not going to be the dude, ends up being a great quarterback. Like, so many people, I know he ended up going 2nd overall. They are killing C.J. Stroud in the draft process. And everyone loved Bryce Young. And now everyone's like, oh, how dumb are the Panthers for taking Bryce Young when they could have had C.J. Stroud? So there's no science. There's no exact science to any of these things. But anyway, let me play you this Belichick sound. This is Belichick on the Manning cast last night, just teeing off in a Belichick's fashion and a Belichick style on Woody Johnson.
You know, Peyton, Eli, I'm not a big Jets fan, in case you don't know that. You know, I like Fireman Ed, but that's it. But you know what? Coach Salah did a good job with that program. I mean, he brought in a culture, a level of toughness and competitiveness.
Seemed quite early to me to be making a head coaching change.
Yeah, that's kind of what it's been there at the Jets. You know, it barely won over 30% in the last 10 years. So, you know, the owner being the owner, just ready, fire, aim.
You know, I hate the Jets. I hate Woody Johnson. I think he's a buffoon. Not just a buffoon. I think he is a geekazoid. And I think he is an incompetent embarrassment to the NFL owners. And all you dopes that think I would ever coach the Jets. Did you not see that napkin I gave to them back in the early 2000s? Where I didn't even write, I resign as the head coach of the Jets. I just wrote, BB resigns as HC of the NYJ. I look at the Jets like they are beneath me. I wouldn't even urinate on the Jets if they were on fire and the Jets needed to be put out, okay? That's how much I despise Woody Johnson, and that's how much I despise the New York Jets. So, Stu, I think it's safe to say that Bill's not going to be coaching the Jets.
Yeah, I would agree. I couldn't. After that, before that, maybe I could have seen it 5%, something small. But after that, no chance.
So, where does Bill coach? I still think the Cowboys would be the number 1 team. I think he wants to coach the Eagles, and I do think that Nick Sirianni should be fired. But the Eagles kind of like to control their head coach. And you can't control Belichick, but I think the best destination would actually be Philadelphia because they have an extremely talented roster. Howie Roseman is a good GM, so then Bill's not building the roster, but Howie and Bill have mutual respect for one another, and Bill could just go back to what he does best, and that's coaching the team. Like, you go to the Cowboys, I think Jerry will get out of the way for a little bit, but you know you're walking in with 2 to 3 years. And then inevitably Jerry is going to put his hand in the cookie jar and then Bill's going to say, bleep you, I got my Shula record. I got the win record. I'm out. You know, could he go to Jacksonville? That could be a bizarre destination, but I could see him going there. But I don't think that's the best destination. So immediately my first thought, and I know Florio said the Giants. I know he has a lot of respect for the Giants. I'd still be surprised with how bare that roster is. I think that'd be a dumb move by Bill. I think that's Bill living, in the 80s and 90s and not where the Giants are at in 2024. So my first thought, if you put a gun to my head, where's Bill coaching next year? It's with the Cowboys. But if it's not the Cowboys, I think the one team that could actually jump Dallas, where he wants to go to, I think, is Philadelphia. Notice, he says all these nice things about the Eagles. I know Jerry has publicly said he thinks he could work with Bill. I don't know if Bill has made a lot of noise yet on the Cowboys, but he made it pretty crystal clear that it is not going to be the New York Jets. Now, by the way, let me get your thoughts, Stu. Right now, gun to your head, where do you go? Bill coaching where next year?
I agree. I think it's the Cowboys.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if this team is bad enough.
Okay.
It seemed like this team was going to be bad enough the first couple weeks, but now they're kind of on a bit of a run.
Can I guess?
Sure.
Is it a loose kind of a run?
No.
Do they have more than 2 wins?
They have more than two wins.
I thought you were going to guess the Bengals, and I said the Bengals would be too cheap.
No.
Okay, so who is it?
This is an NFC North team.
NFC North?
Bears. With Caleb Williams. Again, I'm trying to link a team that the coach
is They got 4 wins, yeah.
Not on the most stable ground, plus a young quarterback that he can kind of work with.
Isn't that funny? You go NFC North. The obvious answer is the Bears. But like a few weeks ago, it was Eberflus was definitely fired.
Yeah, now he might not be.
It's like, I don't know. They're playing well. And it seems like Caleb Williams likes him too. That's what it ultimately comes down to. If Caleb Williams at the end of the year says to ownership, yeah, I like this guy, Matt Eberflus. I like his beard and his slick back hair. It is Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We'll do a news brief and also who will regret not trading for Davante Adams coming up after these short messages. But first, let me tell you about my friends that we could always depend on. Sports fans, listen up. 1 in 8 men will be diagnosed with prostate cancer, and bladder leaks to be a side effect. That's why Depend is teaming up with the Prostate Cancer Foundation to encourage screening, because health is a long game, and it's yours to win. Now, here's the cool part. Through November, Depend is contributing up to $300,000 to prostate cancer research by donating 40 cents for every purchase of shields, guards, and Real Fit products. Void in Mississippi. Learn more at Depend.com.
You're in a 4.5-minute break. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. 1 minute remaining. "45 seconds remaining. "30 seconds remaining. "15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Time for your daily news brief. We get you caught up on the rumors, reports, and reconnaissance from the day in sports.
Alrighty, news brief time. Let's start with the game first, then we'll get to everything that happened since then. This is Aaron Rodgers on that interception late last night. Well, he takes no ownership for it, and he blames the wide receiver, Mike Williams.
There's two verticals, Allen's down the seam, Mike's down the red line. So I'm looking at Allen. He puts his hand up, three guys go with him. So I'm throwing a no look to the red line. And when I just peek my eyes back there, he's running an inbreaker. So it's got to be down the red line.
So were you throwing that to come back to it?
No, I was throwing it to the red line. But when I got to about here, I realized he was running an inbreaker. So I had to kind of adjust it a little bit. But the play is two guys vertical, one guy down the seam, one guy on the red line.
So I appreciate Rodgers' honesty, but I don't know if the honesty is a good look there. Like, how many times does a mistake happen in the NFL and the quarterback who's the true leader of the team will just say, hey, that's on me, we got to execute it better? But he clearly went out of his way to make it known, with the verbiage that he used, the red line, that Mike Williams didn't run the route that he was supposed to run. But I could also throw it back to Aaron Rodgers this way. Oh, you missed some time in the offseason when you could have worked on building this chemistry with your wide receivers, and you were in Egypt. So that's where you could throw it back at Aaron Rodgers' face as well. Here is Aaron Rodgers, who called out the refs, which were a disaster last night. It was like Oprah Winfrey during Christmas time. Instead of you get a present, you get a present, you get a present, it was you get a flag, you get a flag, you get a flag, you get a flag. Here is Rodgers, though, calling out the refs in the loss to the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, it seemed a little ridiculous. Yeah, some of them seemed really bad, including the roughing the passer on me. That's not roughing the passer. Might as well play sarcastic the ball if we're going to call those things. And I thought the one on Kinlaw was not roughing the passer either. We had a walk-in touchdown with Braylon, and we had a phantom holding call. So we had our chances.
So there's a lot of sloppy play because there's not really much of an offseason anymore, but it did feel as if there was way too many flags last night. And the roughing the passer thing, if that's a roughing call on AJ, let's just line the quarterbacks up with flags on, okay? That's the only way to talk about it. And it's funny, I saw him have a sack earlier in the game, and I thought to myself, oh, he tackled the quarterback too hard, which it was a routine hit. But you're now just programmed because we've seen so many of these stupid penalties occur over and over again. It's a violent game. You can hit the quarterback. AJ did nothing wrong last night, and he got flagged for it, which was stupid. Alrighty, here is Aaron Rodgers. You move on from the loss last night. Now you got your best friend back in town with Davante Adams on the Pat McAfee show, of course. Aaron Rodgers on the Jets adding Davante Adams.
Yeah, obviously I'm really excited. Love Tay. He's a phenomenal player and a dear friend. It was a crappy day yesterday, obviously. We had a real good chance to get to 3-3 and win a home game. I was pissed driving home through traffic. Had a couple messages. I was just not in the mood to talk to anybody. Got home. Tay had called me and texted me, and so I finally called him back. And so about, 12:30, 12:45 last night, I heard the news.
And let's get to Davante Adams, the Pat McAfee Show, and Aaron Rodgers ignoring his calls actually last night.
Yeah, he was having second thoughts. Yeah, he's been known to have both when it comes to pulling the trigger with me. But hopefully we can put that behind us now. And yeah, we're back, man. We're back.
First of all, how's the hamstring? And then second of all, is there any newness to the offense that they're running right now, or are you going to be able to kind of pick up pretty seamlessly with Aaron?
I'm feeling great, man. Feeling great. Getting, I was working with the staff over in Vegas the whole time, and they got me back right. So, fortunately, I'll be able to roll. And I'm sure there's a few new, little nuances, but for the most part, a lot of the same verbiage. Still the same OG right here, so should be able to pick up where we left off. That's the idea.
Stu, I hate to keep on bringing up your Raiders, but Adams was with the Raiders. The Raiders moved on from one of his friends in Carr. That's something that I still don't understand why the Raiders didn't make more of a push for Aaron Rodgers a few years ago via a trade.
Thought so, too. Him and Brady were both kind of out there, and
Brady retired at least.
He at least retired, but the fact they didn't push harder for Rodgers, yes, doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, imagine Rodgers in the same division with Mahomes and Herbert. Would have been fun. Would have been fun. But that's why the Raiders are the Raiders. Well, who knows? Maybe it wouldn't have been fun with the way that things are going with the Jets these days. Here is James Jones. He called his old pal Davante Adams live on the air when the news was breaking that Davante Adams is off to New York. This courtesy of FS1.
James Jones, with the world watching, I need you to FaceTime him, big dog.
You hear it, too.
Put him on TV. That's him, man. Too. Your boy look good. Let's go.
Hey, I appreciate you, my brother. It's about to go down, man. Hey, it's about to go down, bro. You already know you on live TV.
Oh, we rolling.
We rolling.
No, you don't.
Put it close.
Unplug your phone, Jay. What you mean? How you feeling? How you feeling, dog?
Good, bro. Good. I'm in this thing.
I'm in this thing. Ooh, I like it.
South Bay, what up, man?
Rodgers.
Hey, you better respond to my text too, 12.
Oh, that's Aaron,
you
too.
still 12 to me, dog. You know what I'm saying?
That's Aaron, too.
I was talking to Brick. I said, me and 12 something. He said 8. I was like, nah.
No, it's 12, dog. It's 12.
Hey, how excited is he?
Hey, how excited are you, bro? It's time to go to work, man.
Ready. I'm ready, bro.
Hey,
couldn't be more.
What time your flight leave yesterday?
At midnight.
This is what it's like. Yo, that was epic.
It's crazy how quickly that works. And even if that was midnight in Las Vegas, that game ends in New York, and then boom, that trade was just waiting there in the hopper, getting ready to get accomplished and executed. Here's Woody Johnson, the Jets owner, on why bring in Davante Adams even after a loss when they are now 2-4.
We want to bring a lot of change this week. Unfortunate about the game last night. So, So, you guys happy? You're interested? How you doing?
How much say did Aaron Rodgers have in bringing Davante to New York?
Well, we know that they've played together.
As Vito's mother.
Yeah, I mean, I think anybody would be interested in looking at this gentleman. He has a proven skill, that's for sure.
What are your feelings? Like, pardon? What do you think?
What do I think?
Yeah, what do you think?
I think he adds to the running game. He adds to he really makes everything. He opens up everything. You know, particularly having that relationship with the quarterback. That's very important.
Would have been just better if Woody just would have come out and said, hey, Aaron's running the team. Aaron fired Robert. Aaron traded for Davante Adams. Let's just stop dancing around here in line. Here's Josh Allen after the game on the game-clinching first down run, and he took us through the play call on third down.
Called basically our best pass play. Saw 0, got to a 0 check. They played it well, and I just kind of peeked backside, and there was an opportunity to go get it, so that's what I did.
And there was a guy that asked a question to Josh Allen, which let me just tell you, whoever asked him that question, we didn't play the audio, deserves a raise, and then some. Deserves like a big fat raise. Oh, wait, it was me who asked Josh Allen that after the game. All right, let's go to Dan Campbell, the coach of the Lions. Can they still win a championship even without their best defensive player, Aiden Hutchinson?
Listen, my job is to coach what's here, and I'm going to coach the hell out of them, and we are as a staff. And so, yeah, I do. And if we get somebody, great. If we don't, these are our guys, and the coaches know that. This is what we came into camp with. This is why we develop talent, and it's the next man up. They got to be ready to go.
That's the approach you got to have. And this idea that the Lions can't win a Super Bowl anymore, I'm not saying it's not a huge loss. It is. But we've seen teams lose players that are better than Aiden Hutchinson, as much as I think the world of Aiden Hutchinson, and still go on to win the Super Bowl. All right, I haven't heard this, but I've seen this circulate the internet a lot. Here is on Sports Radio WEEI, the head coach of the Patriots, Gerard Mayo. Did he throw some shade here at the hoodie? Bill Belichick, listen up.
How was the roster in such bad shape entering this offseason?
Oh, you tell me.
He almost said what he said.
Nah, not doing that one. Not doing that one.
So it goes two ways there. It's because they were taking over a crappy situation on Bill, or you blame your own guy, Elliott Wolf, for constructing one of the worst offensive lines ever and not going out and getting you some pass catchers. So I don't think you win either way. But I do think Gerard knew which way he was thinking of that first, and that was going after someone that was his mentor in Bill Belichick. Alrighty, let me play one more here. Let's go to, I haven't heard this one yet. Here is D'Amico Ryans. He threw shade at Josh Allen while praising Jordan Love. All right, let me hear this.
Going against Jordan Love this week, he'll be the best quarterback we've seen this year. So it'll be a really, really tough matchup. Really good team. They're explosive on offense. They run the ball well with Jacobs, just well-coached team. So we have our hands full.
Well, first off, Josh Allen is a better quarterback than Jordan Love. The Bills did play the Texans. See, part of me goes, how much is that just the opponent you're playing this week? And you say something like that to just pump up the opponent or pump up the opposing team's player. And then if someone followed up and said, oh, well, you played Josh Allen, what do you mean there? Like, if that follow-up happened, I'd be curious to hear how D'Amico Ryans would respond. Because I've been in those spots before where people be like, oh, this is the best guy that I ever played up against. Then you follow it up with someone that's better, and then they kind of walk it back. So I don't know if that happened with the D'Amico Ryans thing, but I'd be curious if it did. You know what? I lied. One more here. Let's go to Dan Lanning. This was awesome at the end of that game where he intentionally put a 12th man on the field. Let's listen up to Dan Lanning when he was called out for doing that.
Yeah, there was a timeout before that. We spent an inordinate amount of time on situations. There's some situations that don't show up very often in college football, but this is one that obviously was something that we have worked on. So you can see the result.
It was kind of like when Belichick did the thing with the declining of the penalties and then Vrabel used it against him. A little bit different here, but that's what it reminded me of when it was talked about in the moment. And no one realized it at the time. Like, no one in the broadcast at the time said, oh, they intentionally put 12th men on the field. And I saw a TikTok about it. And once you saw the TikTok and that go viral and someone explain it, then everyone started asking Dan Lanning about that. And the smirk that Dan Lanning gave in that answer, because the actual audio doesn't really tell you much, but the smirk that he gave is like, yep, you guys got me. Yep, that TikTok was 100% accurate. So good job by one Dan Lanning. Now they're talking about potentially changing that rule as well. All right, it is Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. I'm sure Ryan Day is crying about that because anytime he loses, he can't just say, hey, we got beat by a better team. There always has to be something that the Ohio State Buckeyes got screwed over with. All righty, we will take a timeout. Standing by with the latest sports flash is El Capitan, Marco Belletti.
Infinity Sports Network. Sports Flash.
Zach, Jets trying to salvage their season. They sent a conditional third-round pick to the Raiders in exchange for Davante Adams. But he's not the only receiver on the move, though. Bills reportedly get Amari Cooper from the Browns. That for a third-rounder as well. Cowboys have been a disappointing 3-3. Jerry Jones doesn't seem happy about having to answer to Sean and RJ on his weekly spot, 105.3 The Fan in Dallas.
Your job isn't to let me go over all the reasons that I did something and I'm sorry that I did it. That's not your job.
Well, my job is to ask
why.
why.
A job, or I'll get somebody else to ask these questions, man.
Jerry, we're trying to figure out why the team is.
I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding.
Meanwhile, Steelers, Mike Tomlin saying no decision yet for his quarterback this week with Russell Wilson and Justin Fields.
Now it's about knocking the rust off. He did some of that last week. He is in consideration this week. We'll see where that leads us, man. Both guys at the quarterback position are scheduled to work tomorrow, and we'll just walk it day by day.
ALCS resumes tonight. You got Game 2 in the Bronx, Yankees and Guardians. Cleveland trying to even the series at a game apiece. I'm Marco Belletti.
This is the Infinity Sports Network. Follow us on X. Our handle is INF Sports Network. That's INF Sports Network on X.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Hey, this is Howie. And this is Nick from the Backstreet Boys. And you're listening to the Zach Gelb Show. And guess what? Zach is back. All right.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
Oh my God, we're back
So
again.
just being honest, we're in a little bit of a tricky situation here. Our show ends in 15 minutes. We're supposed to have Jonathan Taylor on here, but it looks like Jonathan Taylor's running a little late. So we are working with Jonathan Taylor's people to do something after the show. We will air you that conversation probably tomorrow. But there's a chance that he joins in the next few minutes, and then we go to Jonathan Taylor. So if he joins us and he ends up making it, we will talk to him. If not, I will record something after the show with him, and then we'll give you that conversation tomorrow. And that's a fascinating one. You know, it's probably not going to get a lot of national play, Colts and Dolphins, because Tua is not eligible to return yet. But you look at the Colts, their coach said it the other day, as long as Anthony Richardson continues to stay healthy and progresses through this week, he's going to start over Joe Flacco. And that was an Indianapolis team that they started off slow, 0-2, and now they have won 3 out of their last 4 games to sit there at 3-3 on the season. And Jonathan Taylor's been out the last 2 weeks, so I will definitely ask him whether we play that conversation today or tomorrow, what's going on with that ankle injury that has made him miss the last 2 games. So I like Jonathan Taylor a lot. He is a heck of a running back, and I just hope he has good health, good bill health the rest of the way, because the last few years, unfortunately, has been banged up and has missed some games, and the game is better when one of the more explosive players in the game from what we saw a few years ago in that great 1,800-yard season is on the field. All righty. So the big story of the day, as today has been a wild, and I mean a wild day of NFL news. So it starts with Davante Adams going to the Jets. Then Russell Wilson, even though the Steelers won't confirm it, according to Tom Pelissero, he's in line to actually usurp Justin Fields as the starting quarterback this week. And then the Bills, surprise, surprise, they make a move and they trade for Amari Cooper, which I thought was a really good response to the Jets trading for Davante Adams. So, off of the Davante Adams conversation, and we'll do a 2-part conversation here. Question number 1, which team is going to regret not trading for Davante Adams? And then the follow-up is going to be, who is the next big player that you would like to see be traded? And I'll give you my answer on Adams first and then give you the next big player that I would like to see get traded. So when I look at the teams that will regret not trading for Davante Adams, I still don't understand the Baltimore Ravens here. And we had Mike Florio on earlier, and Mike Florio said, I think the Ravens were looking to get him at a bargain, and if really no one was going to give this great offer, then the Ravens would have swooped in. Mike, I just don't get that. I really don't. You have a window here with Lamar Jackson to go win a Super Bowl. You were the number 1 team, the number 1 seed last year. I know you didn't get the job done and you blew it in the AFC Championship game. But what we've seen so far through the first 6 weeks of the season is a lot of mediocre football. And the Ravens, we now look at them with the little extra juice since getting Derrick Henry. So this idea that the Ravens wouldn't just give a second outright when the Raiders are getting a 3rd-round pick for Davante Adams, because it's not going to be a second. Adams, with all the games he misses, is not going to be a first-team All-Pro. Is not going to be a second-team All-Pro. And the Jets aren't getting to an AFC Championship game. So I really struggle with the Ravens part of this. And I really struggle why the Ravens didn't get the deal done. Some other teams like the Bills, I can't crush because they made a good response to getting Amari Cooper. You know, the Texans, some people said, oh, just go all in and bleep it. And the Texans, I know Nico Collins is out for a few weeks, but he's coming back. You got Stephon Diggs and Tank Dell. They don't got to make that move. And you already traded for Stephon Diggs, so you're not going to go trade for Davante Adams. The Steelers, I get on the Steelers. It's like, who scares you on the Steelers offense? Like, you have 2 solid running backs, and Najee Harris and Jalen Warren. George Pickens, he looks like a wide receiver that could be really damn good, but he just gets in his head too much. And he thinks he's Jerry Rice, for crying out loud. And he acts like he's Jerry Rice. You know, you got to go prove something more than what George Pickens has proven in this league. And they tried for Ayuk, so why not go get Davante Adams? And then I would have liked to have seen him on the Commanders. I would have. If you could put Scary Terry, Terry McLaurin, and Davante Adams together with Jaden Daniels, that would have been a lot of fun. But then really the I'll give you two more teams, the Packers. And I was on this in the summer when we had John Kuhn on. And I said, do you think, with it looking like Davante Adams, his time is limited, and he's on borrowed time with the Raiders, do you think the Packers would welcome Davante back? And he said no. He didn't think the Packers were interested in a Davante Adams trade. It had to be true. Because did anyone outside of me mention Davante Adams going back to Green Bay? I don't think so. And you know what could have been a fascinating one? I think the timing of this prevented them from doing so. Because you lose Hutchinson. So therefore, you probably have to use the space that you have to go get a defensive player. And I don't know if they would have been in necessarily on Davante Adams, but it would have been an added luxury. For the Lions, I know they have Amon-Ra St. Brown. I know they have Jameson Williams. And I know they got Sam Laporte at the tight end. But if they could have gone like Texans, where you get 3 wide receivers, how the heck do you stop the Detroit Lions? They had Davante Adams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Jameson Williams, with Montgomery and Gibbs running the ball, and then Laporta as the tight end. And I even saw Tim Patrick, I think, had a touchdown in the game, and they took it off the board as well because he was down short. So even Tim Patrick, after 2 years of injuries, is popping back up at the Detroit Lions. So those are some teams that will just rattle through that could ultimately regret not trading for Davante Adams. Now, Stu, I'm going to say something you don't like.
Oh, I know where you're going. Stop. They're not trading him.
But it makes sense. Here's why.
For who?
I hate myself that I'm suggesting this. Let me just say that from the start. So Max Crosby, I know he's only 27. Turns 28 in August. And Max Crosby is not only the best player on the Raiders, but he is one of the best players in the NFL. And he is the heart and soul of that organization. And the Raiders should be thankful that Max Crosby loves the Raiders as much as he does. Because sometimes I want to say to Mad Max, why do you love this team so much when they are in a mitigated disaster? Okay? So I do appreciate Max Crosby loving the Raiders. But the Raiders are such a dreadful organization. The Raiders have such a dreadful roster. Like, Stu, let me ask you this. Who are the 5 players on the Raiders that you look at and you go, these are our building blocks for the future?
5, huh? All right. So Crosby, Bowers, for sure.
Spillane
is pretty good linebacker. I'd say him. I'd still say Christian. I would say Wilkins still, even though he's hurt now and, he's not necessarily
paid him a big contract, though?
Yeah, he has a few years on that contract, so I'd say him. After that...
Anyone on the line? Offensive line?
Not really. Cole Miller, I guess.
Yeah,
I guess I'll just say Cole Miller.
So
it's not a lot there.
It's a struggle. So this is not me just saying you dump Max Crosby for nothing. But, look at Detroit. They have a window to go win. What would it take, Stu? You're the GM. I'm Brad Holmes. I call you up. I say, Tom Telesco Kovacs, I want Max Crosby. I am the Detroit Lions. We have a chance to win a Super Bowl for the first time ever. And we just lost Aiden Hutchinson. You have Max Crosby. You're nowhere close to making the playoffs, let alone winning a Super Bowl. And you are wasting the prime of one of the best players in the NFL in Max Crosby. And I want to get a deal done. I want to know what it takes to tango with you, Tom Telesco Kovacs. What do you need from me?
2 firsts and a 4th. They're not drafting a better player with not 2 first-round picks.
Okay, let me counter. Because it's a smart strategy to start big.
Of course.
and you may be able to get more in the offseason. If I'm being honest.
Where teams have like cap room and stuff. And
like you could get 2 first-round picks, I think, for Max Crosby in the offseason. I do. In season, I don't think so. What happens if I counter and say, I'll give you a first and a third?
First and what?
First and a third.
That's not enough.
Not enough.
Because it's going to be, the first is going to be like 28, 29 in theory, because they're going to try to make a Super Bowl run. It's a very late first-round pick.
First, here we go. This is how we get into negotiations, folks. You're seeing how the sausage is made. First and a third. That third, and I don't even know if the Lions have all their picks, to be fair. I'm just spitballing.
Yeah, of course.
First and a third. That third becomes a second if we make the NFC Championship game. Not even a Super Bowl, not even win the Super Bowl. We made Tom, Telesco, Kovacs, Stewart, Kovacs, Stewart, Telesco, Tom, Telesco. We made the NFC Championship game last year. We should be in the NFC Championship game again. I give you our 1. I will give you a 3. That 3 turns into our 2 if we do the same as what we did last year and we just simply make the NFC Championship game. Stu, you pancake-eating mother bleeper, say yes. And I'm not even making you give me Putney just because I feel like it. Come on, Stu. Say it with me.
I have a tough time thinking they'll only get a first out of it. A second, a late
Stu,
second.
Are you not listening?
A late second.
It's a first, a third, and if we make the NFC Championship game, the third turns into a 2.
I understand.
And you know what? I'll even put a disclaimer on it, too. Because right now you're saying no, right, Stu?
I'm saying no still.
You're saying
yes.
no because you're a coward. All right? So here we go. A first and a third. The third turns into a 2 if we make the NFC Championship game. The 2 turns into a 1. So 2 1s.
2 1s.
If we win the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Now you're talking.
Okay.
Because the idea of having multiple 1s at least intrigues me. If not, I don't see a reason why they would. Unless Crosby comes to them and says, like,
I want out.
I want out.
Which, quite frankly, we need to examine Max Crosby's head.
More loyal than me.
That he wants to stay there. You know what? I only have one reason. One reason why Max Crosby wants to stay with the Raiders. It's because I connected Sully with Max Crosby. And Sully and Max Crosby are now friends when I connected them at the Super Bowl. So once you meet Sully, you never want to leave Sully.
That's true.
So maybe that's why. Maybe you should thank me. The Raiders should thank me for Max Crosby wanting to stay with the Raiders. So you would think that? You would think about doing that if it's a 1 and a 3. The 3 turns into a 2 if it's an NFC Championship game. And if they win the Super Bowl, which if they win the Super Bowl, or if they just get to the Super Bowl, hey, or an NFC Championship game, it's a 2, but if they end up winning the Super Bowl, it goes to 2 1s. You would think about that.
I'd at least think about it, but it's going to take a lot. It's going to be a big package to get him because he's still in his prime, has a couple years left on his contract. You know, I know he's not a quarterback, so he can't go for it. It's hard to ask for multiple 1s for a
Jamal
non-quarterback.
Adams and Jalen Ramsey, though, went for 2 1s.
That's true.
PU. At least on Ramsey. Yeah. At least on Adams. You know, Ramsey ended up working out all right. Okay. This is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. You know what Billy Wolf said I should offer you to sweeten this deal?
What?
Well,
I think I can imagine. Yeah.
I could sweeten the pot a little bit if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Dun-dun-dun. So, you're tough negotiators, Stu.
It's Max Crosby. It's literally all I have.
I know, but
it's all I have.
Don't you have to start thinking about what's in the best interest for the people that you love the most? And for the people that you love the most. The best interest is definitely not staying with the Raiders. Outside of that fan that dresses up like the gorilla and then Violator or whatever his name is. Those 2 guys are cool when we met him.
Gorilla Rilla, yeah.
Yeah, Gorilla Rilla. Yeah. That's why I would want to stay with the Raiders. And also, you get to be out in Vegas, so you get all that Piero's, which is delicious. I've recommended like 5 friends now to go to Piero's in Las Vegas, the great Italian restaurant. They're all like, wow, one of the best meals I've ever had. Piero's. Fantastic. All righty, that will do it for the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Craig says, Zach, your head is getting a bit large. How so? You know, I don't think my head got any bigger here, right, still? Maybe I put
Looks
more
the
hair
same
on
to me.
it. That's about it. But, yeah, that's an interesting comment. Anyway, big thank you to Mike Florio for joining us. Big thanks to Stu Samter for producing this extravaganza. Big thanks to Marco Belletti on the updates. And we will be back tomorrow, right at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific, hopefully with Jonathan Taylor. And also, it's a Wednesday. Take 5 Wednesday, give you my top 5 teams in the NFL and college football. And I don't know how we book this guy each and every week. Hot Take Hickey is with us tomorrow as well. All righty, have a great Tuesday evening, everybody. We out. Bye-bye. Peace.